Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles. Chapter 2669. All he could see was a vast expanse of whiteness. To the gods, they had never seen such a scene before. Many of them had almost forgotten what it was like to become a god. Although the new soldiers and generals remembered it, in their minds, the world tree they saw was definitely not as big as the one Long Chen was now. It might not even be 1% as big as it was now. This was truly shocking. The gods could not help but step back. They were speechless about Long Chen's world tree. The bigger the world tree, the greater the tribulation it might contain. Therefore, the gods were very curious about what kind of painful tribulation Long Chen would encounter next. Would he be able to endure it? The god king of hell was looking forward to it. Biyao was also looking forward to it. It had not been easy for her to progress to this stage. Of course, she would not let Long Chen die so easily. However, now that he had become stronger, it would undoubtedly be more difficult for her to control Long Chen in the future. Therefore, she was not too willing to accept it. For Long Chen, what he experienced at this moment was not tribulation, but warmth. This is my great tribulation of gods and demons? According to legend, it was the last tribulation before becoming a god. It was also a tribulation that countless people who were half a step into the divine spirit realm had never overcome. However, Long Chen did not feel any killing intent from it. Instead, he felt a special warmth. Therefore, even he himself wanted to know why. He could not see the entire world tree. He could only see the endless light around him, and he was standing in a rather central position. Long Chen remembered what Mo Shaolang had said. The first process of the great tribulation of gods and demons was the baptism of the world tree. In fact, it was a transformation from a human to a god. This was a tribulation because the baptism was very painful. If one could not endure it, it was very likely that they would be turned into ashes. Therefore, he was prepared. Soon, he saw many white things that looked like vines or snow-white willow leaves in the boundless world tree. These things were dancing in the air. They were very slender and kept circling around Long Chen. There was no way to count how many of them there were. Soon, these things that were revolving around Long Chen began to surround him, forming a thick cocoon around Long Chen. The strange thing was that Long Chen didn't feel any hardship from beginning to end. He only felt comfortable and powerful. Within the world tree, he grew stronger even faster. When he didn't even know to what extent these snow-white willow leaves had surrounded him, he suddenly felt a pure power of heaven and earth pouring into his body, guiding his body to undergo a huge transformation. First, it was the formation of the heart of rule in the world tree in his body. It was a vast, endless world that was even more stable than the sea of consciousness. For gods, it was something that contained their primordial spirits and rules. Only when the Tao seal on the primordial spirit reached this position would it become a real Tao seal of rule. Only then could he begin to understand the rules. The mystiques that Long Chen had used before were too similar to rules, so much so that even the gods couldn't tell them apart. In fact, they were just mystiques, the ancestral dragon mystiques. However, what would the ancestral dragon mystiques and rules fuse into? Long Chen was looking forward to it. He was even very excited. Buzz. It was a mysterious power that seemed to originate from the primordial world. After being nourished by it, Long Chen discovered that his entire body had changed. This was the true transformation of his body from a human to a god. The biggest change was that his sea of consciousness had disappeared. From now on, his sea of consciousness no longer existed. Buzz. The primordial spirit of the void Aeon dragon appeared in another place. This was a vast world. It was stable and connected to the entire world tree by countless thin lines. This was also a magical world. After arriving here, the primordial spirit of the void Aeon dragon was like a fish in water. Under the milky white power, even the Tao seal was undergoing a certain change. This was to prepare for Long Chen to understand the power of rules in the future. When the milky white power left his body, he had already transformed into a god. The strange thing was that he didn't experience any pain. This process was completed so quickly that it was like a dream. He even felt that there would be no danger from now on. It seemed that even the heavens were helping him today. He didn't have time to understand what that terrifying and strange power was before it completely disappeared. At this moment, Long Chen's skin was as white as snow, and his muscles were defined. His body was almost perfect, just like a newborn. And inside his body, there was no difference from the other gods. He had the world tree, the heart of rules, and the divine palace. Now, the gods didn't have the power of faith on them at all. Long Chen didn't know where their power came from. Perhaps it was the same as Mo Xiaolong's, where the divine palace was a flame or something else. But to a large extent, Long Chen still relied on the living beings in the divine palace, because he had become a god through faith. After he became a god, the 10 billion divine palaces shone brightly. Because of the return of the gods, Long Chen lost a lot of faith for a time. But now, when the entire huge world tree connected Long Chen with all the gods in the eternal god domain, he could feel the power of their lives and the power of faith of all living beings. This allowed Long Chen to obtain an endless supply of the power of all living beings. In the hearts of all living beings, the image of Long Chen became stronger once again. This was the 10 billion living beings. But at this time, something appeared in Long Chen's mind, and that was the inheritance dragon ladder. When he first stepped on the inheritance dragon ladder, with every step he took, he felt that he was connected with 10 billion living beings. Even now, those connections still existed. At this moment, when the 10 billion celestial palaces lit up, the connections that had disappeared before became clear again. Now, there were many people who recognized Long Chen, the god. From the outside, the roots of the world tree had already passed through the eternal god domain and taken root on the dragon sacrificial continent. The snow-white light shone on the entire dragon sacrificial continent. From the inside, in Long Chen's body, around each divine palace, there were 100 smaller divine palaces. In each smaller divine palace, there was also a living being, and these living beings were actually connected with the trillions of living beings on the dragon sacrificial continent. Every living being in the divine palace had a normal small size. And the living beings in the large divine palaces were even 10 meters tall. Long Chen's body didn't change, but in his body, a trillion smaller divine palaces and 10 billion larger divine palaces were born. Because he became a god, all living beings on the entire dragon sacrificial continent entered his body. Through the living beings in the divine palaces, Long Chen was simply connected with the people of this entire world. At this moment, he finally understood that this might be a gift from the ancestral divine dragons. Because he had obtained all of this by stepping on the inheritance dragon ladder. However, his body could give birth to another trillion living beings. With so much faith, even if everyone only knew a little about him, even if they only had a little bit of faith, Long Chen would be able to obtain boundless power, a power that would almost cause his body to explode. Under the refinement of the primordial divine dragon heavenly tribulation mystic tome, the power of hope could be quickly transformed into the primordial divine dragon heavenly tribulation source power. Long Chen's current state was not just a surge of power. He was also in the same state as he was in the spirit essence star ocean. Because he had obtained countless faith, he had enough power to use the spirit essence twin swords. In the entire dragon sacrificial continent, the image of Long Chen appeared in the mind of every living being. Regardless of whether they knew Long Chen before or if they had any suspicions about Long Chen, at this moment, they all held a spirit of reverence as they looked at this god that suddenly appeared in their hearts. This wasn't caused by Long Chen himself. It must be those divine dragons that disappeared, they must be helping him. They must exist. Long Chen couldn't help but be overjoyed. This proved that his and his father's lifelong pursuit wasn't wrong. Just like how the black jade dragon head told him to protect the dragon sacrificial continent, just like how the Curse Realm Guardian silently protected the Curse Realm's dragon tomb, just like that mysterious origin dragon palace. They needed him and were helping him. They bestowed him the faith of all living beings. During the first metamorphosis, he was safe and sound. He completed the foundation of becoming a god and completed the metamorphosis of the heart of law and primordial spirit. During the second metamorphosis, each god palace was surrounded by 100 smaller god palaces, giving birth to 1,000,000,000,000 new god palaces and living beings. Even if it was just the foundation, the countless faith of all living beings still benefited Longchen greatly. It allowed his primordial divine dragon heavenly tribulation source energy to skyrocket and even maintain a full state at all times. Although his body didn't change, the contents of his body were infinitely huge. In reality, every god was like this. But in terms of the size of their bodies, even a god king couldn't compare to the current Longchen. He was destined to have potential and talent that even the gods would be envious of. Just like Mo Xiaolang, he was simply a living being without a peak. But this wasn't the end. The great tribulation of gods and demons that he had been waiting for so long wasn't a tribulation to him, but a blessing from start to finish. The gods couldn't see Longchen's current appearance, but they could feel a kind of boundless aura. At this moment, a god exclaimed, "The torrent of law has also appeared, but it's actually 100 times bigger than normal." Around the world tree was the vast torrent of law. The torrent of law was something that would appear when all living beings in the myriad worlds became gods. This was the great law of the myriad worlds. The entire myriad worlds were under the great law of the torrent of law. All living beings obtained God's laws from the torrent of law, such as the black hole law, time law, hell law, yellow springs law, and so on. There was also Mo Xiaolang's flame law. Even Mo Xiaolang's fire forbidden realm seemed to be a mystique that was awakened from his bloodline, but in reality, it was also a kind of law. It wasn't the flame law, but his devouring law. It was just that this law wasn't obtained from the torrent of law, but awakened on his own. This was related to his bloodline and talent. When Longchen saw the torrent of law, he was a little puzzled. What should he do? Illusory, formless, and difficult to find. Longchen rushed forward, directly opened the divine dragon's mouth, and swallowed the water droplet of laws of time. The water droplet turned formless and integrated into the time Dao seal in the heart of the law. The time Dao seal was also undergoing the same change. Rumble. Longchen transformed into an illusory great void Aeon dragon. In the time Dao seal, the time mystiques of the past were also undergoing huge changes. Time reversal, eternal instant, illusionary bubble, time roaming dragon, dream of the origin, time storm, time reversal, chaotic sea of time, time rupture. Any mystique that encountered the laws would produce terrifying changes. For example, eternal instant, this was time stop. He was only at a low level of time stop, but when he fused with the laws of time, it was already moving toward a higher level. Even if he faced a god, they would probably be unable to move. It might even be more powerful than Biyao's forbidden space dance. Then, Longchen found the water droplet of life. He turned into a 15-headed Tai Chi spirit dragon and continued to wander, looking for the last divine Dao heart-refining dragon. At the same time, the 14th sacrifice, the 14th life formation, and the fire of life were also fusing with the laws of life. Finally, he found the black and yellow karma water droplet. Longchen found it, then turned into the divine Dao heart-refining dragon and rushed out of the torrent of laws. Similarly, the karma Dao seal was also undergoing terrifying changes. He believed that after fusing with the laws of karma, the divine prison of swords and sabers and the karma imperial sword would become even more different. It was over. From the inside out, it was powerful in all aspects. Longchen was exceptionally happy. Now that he had such a huge transformation, he would be able to take the initiative no matter what problems he encountered in the future. Even the day when he could kill the godly king of hell was not far away. Back when he had the power of a god and killed the blazing demon, it seemed like it was only yesterday. He did not expect that he would truly become a god so soon. In terms of combat strength, although there was no actual combat, as long as it was not a godly king or a godly emperor, he could fight. This was already quite heaven-defying. Even the ancient gods could only stare dumbfounded at his growth. Now, the torrent of laws and the world tree were finally beginning to dissipate. 3 transformations, from the primordial spirit and the nomological heart, to the God Palace, and finally to the fusion of the 4 nomological laws. The results of this God ascension were much greater than Long Chen had imagined. To him, it was already quite satisfactory. Now, he had also reached the great ultimate divine realm, but he was only at the primordial realm. Although it was the primordial realm, it was the most extraordinary primordial realm. Just as Long Chen thought it was over, he suddenly discovered a gray divine dragon swimming in the torrent of laws. It seemed to have countless broken wings and dragon claws, and its entire body was filled with the aura of disaster. It was extremely awe-inspiring. It seemed to have 2 dragon heads, and one of them seemed to only have dragon bones without flesh. You are a true dragon. You are only missing the Origins Dragon soul. They are in the Origins Dragon Palace. However, when you do not have the ability to protect the Origins Dragon Palace, do not open it, because it is what our enemies want the most. That voice was the most familiar to Long Chen. That was the voice of the black jade dragon head that had spoken to Long Chen back then. He did not expect it to appear here. It was a grayish-black divine dragon, and the feeling it gave Long Chen was that of the ancestral dragon. That's right, it must be the ancestral dragon. Long Chen was extremely excited. Just as he was about to speak, the torrent of laws and the world tree suddenly vanished. Everything vanished. That ancestral dragon had also vanished without a trace. Although he had become a god, Long Chen was no longer in the mood to be happy because of the ancestral dragon's appearance. He deeply remembered what the ancestral dragon had said to him. In the past, he had thought that the Origins Dragon Palace was very casual, but now he knew how important it was. Within 100 years, the dragon's sacrifice will perish. Origins Dragon Palace, enemy. With too much information, Long Chen needed to slowly think about it before he could process it. What kind of existence is he? Who is our enemy? Who is the mysterious existence that Sky Fiend Era mentioned? Long Chen was filled with shock. This was much more shocking than when he had become a god. Now, he had true godly might, but he was a different god. Because now, he had obtained the faith of the entire dragon sacrifice continent. This made him look so different from the other gods. Now, all the gods were looking at him in a daze, feeling the earth-shattering change in Long Chen. As for Long Chen, he was still immersed in the matter of that dragon. He frowned deeply. He started to understand that he had received a huge gift today. Just like when he had ascended the dragon-bearing staircase, some kind of existence was looking after him, helping him, and treating him as the hope of the future. He could be the ancestral dragon, or he could be something else. Such an existence was like Long Qinglan back then, encouraging Long Chen. Of course, Long Qinglan seemed to have completely disappeared now. Long Chen did not know whether he was dead or alive. He really wanted to know. However, he did not have the time to think too much. The gods had already surrounded him. As the current leader of the dragon sacrifice gods, the godly king of hell came forward and applauded. Not bad at all. You have opened our eyes. With such a huge change, we really want to know how strong you will be after you become a god. Are you interested in letting us know? Long Chen put aside the matter of the mystical dragon for the time being. He looked around and saw that all the gods were staring at him. His strength might have made them even more fearful. After all, most of them were no longer a match for him. Long Chen said, "Godly King, do you have any arrangements?" The godly king of hell laughed heartily. Of course, it's a spar. I will arrange an opponent that you will definitely be satisfied with. You have just grown and must want to test your abilities. Young people are all like this. I understand, so I will let my number 1 godly lord, Yellow Springs God Lord, spar with you. How about it? The gods were shocked. They had guessed that it would be Yellow Springs God Lord, but they did not expect it to be true. This was a ruthless fellow who had been famous for tens of millions of years. He was not a good person even in the primordial age. If not for the godly king of hell protecting him, he would not have been part of the dragon sacrifice gods. In terms of sins, Yellow Spring's god lord was definitely the greatest. For a moment, the gods were smart enough to avoid him. That's quite a rush. Long Chen did not know why the godly king of hell was in such a rush. Could it be Yellow Spring's god lord himself? Or Biyao? Chapter 2671. Before today, Long Chen had seen Yellow Spring's divine lord several times, but they had never interacted much. This god had always been led by the king of hell. Long Chen didn't hate him, nor did he hate him before, but now he almost wanted to kill him. First, it was because of what he had said to him before his great tribulation of gods and demons. It was intolerable, even though it was what many gods thought. Second, it was because of his relationship with the king of hell. The king of hell was the one who had almost killed Lingxi. Long Chen hadn't attacked him or revealed any killing intent because it wasn't the right time. But that didn't mean he didn't have hatred and anger. Yellow Spring's divine lord was the king of hell's lackey. Now that he had a fair chance to fight him face to face, Long Chen wasn't worried at all. He didn't hold back at all. This was the chance he had been looking forward to for a long time. So he said, "I've just become a god and I'm quite curious about my current level. It just so happens that Yellow Spring's divine lord can give me some pointers." Battles have no eyes. Yellow Spring's divine lord is famous throughout the ages, so please go easy on me. Of course, these were just polite words. At this time, Yellow Spring's divine lord had already come to the king of hell's side. He said sneakily, "Don't worry, of course I know what I'm doing. I won't let you lose too badly. After all, you've just become a god and can be considered a god weapon. You need to have some confidence in yourself." The gods all laughed. This Yellow Spring's divine lord was really despicable. Long Chen was talking to him so politely, but he still teased him. He didn't give him any face at all. "All right, don't embarrass yourself when the time comes." The Hell God King looked at him coldly, then left with Biyao and the others. He said to Long Chen, "Just do whatever you want. We are all very curious about your current situation. If you perform well, the God King will also think highly of you in the future. Your position in our dragon sacrifice pantheon should be boundless." Long Chen closed his eyes. He could feel the boundless world inside his body. It was vast and boundless, like a sky full of stars. 1,000,000,000,000 divine palaces rotated within, and the living beings in the divine palaces were like stars. They were all his power, connected to all living beings, connected to his world tree. In the rule's heart, the power of the 4 Tao seals fused perfectly. His entire god spirit body seemed to be one with the whole world. His body was like a small starry sky. This was the most perfect spirit body. When he opened his eyes again, they were as bright as the stars, boundless and limitless. Gradually, a layer of blood covered them. The gods were ready to watch the battle. Patriarch Yellow Spring's reputation was very bad, and it had been like this throughout the ages. Evidently, he was a rather sinister person. At this moment, he clasped his hands behind his back and cackled. "Little fellow, your surging godly power really makes me wary. It's obvious that you're already above the Genesis tier. How enviable." He was an ultimate stage divine lord, yet he didn't even have the power of a god of creation. Patriarch Yellow Spring's boundless divine technique was very famous. The power born from cultivating it was called the Hell Reincarnation Yellow Spring's godly power. Although it was a 3rd-grade primordial tier, it was very close to the Genesis tier. The Hell Reincarnation Yellow Spring's godly power contained many sinister characteristics, such as endless corrosion and destruction. Patriarch Yellow Spring spread his arms, and waves of Hell Reincarnation Yellow Spring's godly power were released from his loose robe, sweeping across the starry sky. This place was originally quite far from the eternal god domain, but the power of the Hell Reincarnation Yellow Spring's godly power could even affect the eternal god domain. Patriarch Yellow Spring acted decisively. The majestic Hell Samsara Yellow Spring divine power condensed into two huge vortexes in his hands. The vortexes produced earthy yellow spring water. It was a terrifying spring water born from the laws. Mutilated corpses and remnant souls kept appearing in the water. Blood filled the air, and a rancid smell spread. The two yellow springs' death whirlpools rapidly grew in size. In an instant, they had already broken through tens of thousands of meters, hanging in the sky like two full moons. The death whirlpools spun rapidly. The death whirlpools that God Lord Yellow Spring had created with his Hell Samsara and Yellow Spring's divine power pressed down on Long Chen. Rumble. It was unstoppable. The two death vortexes would collide where Long Chen was. Unimaginable danger was bound to occur. The gods were shocked. I didn't expect Patriarch Yellow Spring to be so ruthless. It's just a spar, but he instantly used the profound divine Lord laws. If Long Chen can't take it, he'll die. Now, it was Long Chen who was facing the attack. The gods held their breaths and focused. But in fact, Long Chen looked at the deadly attack coldly. He was decisive because he wanted to try something new. He remembered a scene. That was the day he truly transformed into a dragon. He awakened the Slaughter Dragon seal and used it to defeat the four great swordmasters. Then, he snatched Lingxi. The Slaughter Dragon seal was the first mystique he awakened after transforming into a dragon. Later, the power of the Slaughter Dragon seal gradually fell behind the level of Long Chen's opponents. But today, the Slaughter Law had truly perfected the Slaughter Dragon seal. This was actually the primordial blood spirit dragon's most basic attack. It represented the primordial blood spirit dragon's will, slaughter. The blood divine dragon suddenly rushed forward in the death whirlpool. Two death dragon seals condensed on its left and right dragon claws, just like when Long Chen used the Azure Dragon seal and the Profound Dragon seal in Biyao town. Today, his opponent was a god, but he still moved forward bravely, just like he had in the past. Break. The evolved Slaughter Dragon seal clashed with the Death Vortex. This was the clash between the Hell Reincarnation Yellow Spring divine power and the Primordial Divine Dragon's Heavenly Tribulation origin power. This was the first time Long Chen had fused a mystique and a law to clash with someone else's law power. If their powers were equal, Long Chen was actually suppressing Yellow Spring Divine Lord in terms of laws. Therefore, what the gods saw was the Slaughter Dragon seal breaking the Death Vortex. Even Long Chen himself was shocked. The gods watched in shock as the Death Vortex's Yellow Spring law was reduced to ashes. I've never seen Long Chen have such a law power. Did he just comprehend it after becoming a god? The gods discussed. Long Chen laughed. He suddenly felt that he was so powerful that even the Slaughter Dragon seal could destroy his opponent's attack. What would the primordial blood spirit dragon's mystiques be like after they transformed into laws? At that moment, Yellow Spring Divine Lord was the first to lose and was furious. Not bad. You can immediately comprehend a new law power after becoming a god. Genius. Once again, Divine Lord Netherworld condensed his Hell Samsara Netherworld divine power. His face was filled with gloom. He had been renowned throughout the ages, causing people to tremble in fear at the mere mention of his name. Being called Old Ancestor Netherworld, he did not want to die here. Hence, he was even more careful. This time, he even used his trump card. Water of the River of Forgetfulness. With a wave of his hand, it was as if a huge cave had opened up in the starry sky. An extremely strange and sinister river water gushed out from it and circled around Divine Lord Netherworld like a snake. The river surged. Chapter 2672. Among the returning deities, Patriarch Yellow Spring was ranked in the top 5 in terms of strength. Coupled with his notorious reputation, he was feared by the other deities. Even the hot-tempered Divine Lord Tempest had to take a detour when he encountered Divine Lord Yellow Spring. He had to address him as elder brother and senior. Many deities were afraid of him. This was especially true for his hell reincarnation Yellow Springs god power. If he was attacked, it wouldn't just be a matter of a few days. The endless corrosive and dark energy could last for years, centuries, or even millennia before it would dissipate. For thousands of years, Patriarch Yellow Spring had been a nightmare for many. They had full confidence in Patriarch Yellow Spring, but they had never expected Divine Lord Yellow Spring to be completely suppressed by Long Chen since the start of the battle. Whether it was the terrifying whirlpool of death or the water of forgetfulness, Long Chen had broken through them easily. Massacre Dragon Seal, Time-Roaming Dragon, Eternal Xana, Space-Time Reversal. Not only had he broken through the whirlpool of death, but the water of the river of forgetfulness had even rushed to Divine Lord Yellow Spring's head. Although he wasn't injured, he was in a sorry state. For a moment, the deities were extremely shocked. Even the monster deities who were paying attention did not react. They watched the scene in a daze. Long Chen's performance after becoming a deity was like a heavy hammer hitting their heads. How can this be? How can he suddenly know so many nomological powers? The deities murmured. The way they looked at Long Chen had changed. This young man had challenged their imagination time and time again. When he had just returned to the dragon sacrificial continent, no one took him seriously except for the godly king of hell. But now it was different, his performance in the curse world, his ambiguous relationship with Biyao, defeating Stardust, and now he had truly become a deity, he had become an incredible person in the eyes of the deities. From now on, no one would dare to look down on him anymore. Of course, the battle continued under the shocked gazes of the deities. Two of them felt it the most. One of them was the godly king of hell. He and the radiant godly king could see it the clearest. They were also the ones who had existed for the longest time among the deities. They had seen countless geniuses. They had already reached the peak of geniuses by being able to grow to their current level. But they still had deep doubts about Long Chen. How did he do it? Of course, the God King of Hell wouldn't forget that he was the one who killed Lingxi. Even though in his opinion, Long Chen didn't know about it right now, there was always this worry in his heart. If Long Chen and Biyao got together, his strength and status would be above him in the future. Would he become enemies with him because of this? As long as Biyao didn't want Long Chen to know the truth, he should be fine. Of course, this was still a long way off. Deities, godly monarchs, and godly monarchs were all on different levels. A generation of godly monarchs was a legendary figure. Many of the mid-tier worlds didn't even have a godly monarch. As for Biyao, there were many secrets hidden within her eyes. They were extremely complicated and difficult to guess. Of course, Long Chen was concerned about the battle between him and Divine Lord Netherworld. Yi Futian had casually attacked a few times and had already driven Divine Lord Netherworld crazy. The old man had never expected that he would lose. He was a person who cared a lot about his reputation. Just now, he had boasted. Now that he was being suppressed, he had gone crazy. He displayed his most insidious nature. It was no longer a spar, but a desperate counterattack. As a figure at the level of old ancestor level of Long Chen, he had to win back his reputation. Therefore, when the water of the river of forgetfulness was broken by Long Chen using the power of time, he was furious. His face turned red as he roared and withdrew the water of the river of forgetfulness. Now, Divine Lord Netherworld was going all out. This was the attack that he was most confident in. Endless Sea of Bitterness. The moment this rule appeared, all the deities retreated. Those who were familiar with Divine Lord Netherworld knew that this was his highest rule. It was close to a godly monarch's rule and was his ultimate killer move. Even many deities of the same level had suffered greatly under his endless sea of bitterness. His rule power was constantly increasing. From the water whirlpool to the river of forgetfulness, and now the sea of bitterness. Since it was an ocean, its scope and vastness were naturally indescribable. For example, at this moment, under the control of Divine Lord Netherworld, it seemed like the entire sky of the eternal sacred territory was shrouded in an endless grayish-yellow ocean. The sea of bitterness had descended. The endless ocean suddenly appeared. The surroundings of Longchen were already covered by the endless ocean water. The surrounding deities had disappeared, and even the starry sky had disappeared. He was the only person in the huge world. Of course, there was also the endless sea of bitterness. The ocean water was the same as the water of the yellow springs. It had a corrosive and decaying nature. Even if one's body was immersed in the endless sea of bitterness, it wouldn't take long before they were completely corroded and turned into bones. This was the power of the sea of bitterness, and also the reason why Divine Lord Netherworld was so terrifying. If he were to descend the sea of bitterness on the dragon sacrificial continent, at least billions of people would instantly lose their bodies and souls. They would then be immersed in the sea of bitterness forever, enduring endless pain. Under the influence of Divine Lord Netherworld, there were actually quite a number of such people. In the sea of bitterness, there were countless resentful spirits that were tortured to death by Divine Lord Netherworld. Of course, to them, these were just lowly creatures that weren't worth mentioning. The sea of bitterness was boundless. Longchen was immersed in the depths and there was no way out. No matter how he moved forward, he would forever be trapped in this world. In the outside world, the deities were probably holding their breath. What they saw was that Divine Lord Netherworld had finally used the sea of bitterness boundless nomological power to trap Longchen. As long as he didn't take the initiative, it was very likely that Longchen would never be able to get out. Because of this, Divine Lord Netherworld finally heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally regained his dignity and couldn't help but laugh out loud. The power of the sea of bitterness was indeed boundless. Because of this, the deities' expressions changed drastically. They looked at Divine Lord Netherworld with fear and respect. Seeing the power of the sea of bitterness, the deities were even more afraid of Divine Lord Netherworld. It seemed like they hadn't seen Divine Lord Netherworld fight for many years. When you admit defeat, I'll let you out. Divine Lord Netherworld smiled proudly. Of course, he didn't dare to kill Longchen. They were in public and there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. To him, he felt that Longchen was too ruthless, so he had to teach him a lesson. Moreover, Yi Futian had embarrassed him just now. Divine Lord Netherworld's voice reverberated in the sea of bitterness. The sea of bitterness was a kind of nomological power. Its seawater would never disappear unless Longchen changed the nomological power. It had to be said that Divine Lord Netherworld's nomological power that was close to the level of a god king was indeed fierce. However, was he really afraid? In a blur, the deities seemed to see that Longchen had changed again. He seemed to have developed 15 heads and turned into a huge divine dragon with 15 heads. They were colorful and extremely gorgeous. This divine dragon had an incomparably majestic life force and was simply the nemesis of the Sea of Bitterness, a land of death. That was the dragon of life and creation, the Tai Chi spiritual dragon. Of course, the deities didn't know that. They couldn't even see it clearly. 14 spiritual formations. Longchen was decisive and clear-cut. Once the 14 spiritual formations appeared, 14 array diagrams surrounded Longchen in the Sea of Bitterness. After the 14 array diagrams formed nomological power, they instantly began to transform and plunder. This was the nomological power of the Tai Chi spiritual dragon. He took life as his leader, while the other 14 nomological powers were the nomological powers that created the world. The 14 spiritual formations could transform the power of any array diagram. The boundless encirclement of the Sea of Bitterness was actually a nomological array diagram. Transform. The nomological power of the netherworld was transformed. It wasn't the netherworld, but the power of the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, trees, wind, rain, thunder, and lightning that belonged to Longchen. Under the shocked gazes of the deities, they saw Longchen break free from the Sea of Bitterness and even transform the power of the Sea of Bitterness into his own nomological power. Old ghost, I'll return it to you. Longchen broke free from the Sea of Bitterness and sneered. The nomological power transformed by the 14 spiritual formations suddenly erupted. Now, it wasn't Longchen who was besieged, but the Yellow Springs Divine Lord. The Yellow Springs Divine Lord was feeling smug. He couldn't have imagined that the sea of bitterness that he was most proud of, which he had defeated even those at his level, would actually be broken by Long Chen using such a strange method. This was an unimaginable miracle. At least, he couldn't accept it at all. At that moment, he was about to go crazy, and his tears couldn't help but flow out. What was going on? He had merely passed the great tribulation of gods and demons. Was there a need for such a huge change? In front of him, the deities felt like a bunch of stupid things. They were completely mediocre. How could the dignified deities lose to a native of the dragon sacrificial continent? Impossible. The Yellow Springs Divine Lord roared. He was almost crazy. He had actually used the destination-level artifact that he had hidden for a long time. This was his most important life-saving item. Now, he could only use it to block the attacks. Yellow Springs Heavenly Diagram, Creation Stage. This was the only creation stage treasure that the Yellow Springs Divine Lord had. This was something that Di Jun had personally bestowed upon him. He had guarded it for many years and had never been willing to take it out to use. Normally, he would not take it out unless it was a battle of life and death. And now, he was only using it to block Long Chen's 14 spiritual formations. Boom. The Yellow Springs Heavenly Diagram opened up. It was a painting that was extremely huge. There was a surging yellow spring in the painting, as if it was a real world. Just as the scene unfolded, the 14 spiritual formations smashed onto it. Immediately, the Yellow Springs Divine Lord spat out a mouthful of blood, and was defeated 30,000 meters along with the Yellow Springs Heavenly Diagram. The Yellow Springs Heavenly Diagram crashed onto his body, and the light dimmed. Whoosh. This was not the end. At this moment, Long Chen had already transformed into his human form. In the blink of an eye, he had traversed 30,000 meters. He took out his peerless dragon salyer and placed it on the Yellow Springs Divine Lord's neck, saying, "Old dog, you've lost." Chapter 2673. When Long Chen completely suppressed Divine Monarch Netherworld and even took care of his boundless sea of bitterness and Netherworld Heavenly Diagram, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Long Chen was the winner of this battle. Moreover, it was an easy victory. His current combat prowess completely suppressed Divine Monarch Netherworld. Suppressing this expert in the Great Essence Spirit Realm's final realm. This result surprised even Long Chen himself. He didn't expect that becoming a god would bring such a huge change to him. Whether it was the increase in the primordial divine dragon's heavenly tribulation source power, the formation of the Trillion Shrine, or the changes after the spirit technique fused with the laws, they were all the reasons why he won such a huge victory. It had only been a few days since they returned from the Spirit Essence Star Ocean. Mo Xiaolang was still in the Great Essence Spirit Realm's final realm, but Long Chen had already defeated an expert in the Great Essence Spirit Realm's final realm. In terms of speed, he was just too fast and too fierce. This result was completely beyond the gods' expectations. But when they saw Long Chen force Divine Monarch Netherworld to flee in panic, and when they saw his youthful and resolute eyes, everyone felt that it was all real. After Lingxi's accident, there were too many rumors about Long Chen. If he hadn't fought with Xingqian and defeated him, the gods would have almost forgotten about him. The battle with Xingqian made everyone realize how terrifying he was. Although the battle with Divine Monarch Netherworld was arranged by the God King of Hell, it was enough to show how terrifying his future potential was. Most importantly, he had a complicated relationship with Biyao. Now that his wife and son were gone, if Long Chen and Biyao ended up together, he would undoubtedly become a super core of the dragon sacrifice ceremony. He might even become the absolute leader of the new generation after Di Jun. The gods seemed to understand why the God King of Hell was so optimistic about Long Chen. This was because the gods didn't want to take Long Chen seriously in the first place. Divine Lord Netherworld suffered a huge blow and really escaped. Be it the gods of the human race, the gods of the demon race, or some living beings, such as the Dragon Emperor, they were all paying close attention to this battle. Back then, when Long Chen defeated Xingqian, it had already made the living beings of the entire dragon sacrificial continent believe in him even more. Now that Trillion Deity Palace had been completed and he had defeated Divine Lord Netherworld, he had almost become the strongest expert below the two divine kings of the human race. In addition, he was recently born in the dragon sacrificial continent. Therefore, to the living beings of the dragon sacrificial continent, Long Chen was more worthy of respect and worship than these ancestors. Those rumors seemed to have collapsed on their own. In any case, no matter what, the living beings wouldn't believe that Long Chen was such a malicious person. As for the relationship between him and Biyao, that was another matter altogether. Since ancient times, heroes were paired with beauties. If Biyao herself liked Long Chen, who could stop her? Today could be considered the day that Long Chen truly rose to power. After watching this battle, the gods' mouths were dry. They couldn't help but smile at Long Chen. From today onwards, they probably wouldn't dare to mock Long Chen anymore. The rise of some people couldn't be stopped. Take Long Chen for example. Currently, in the entire human race, perhaps only the two divine kings could suppress him. Since that was the case, who would dare to mock him anymore? Even the Storm Divine Lord could only hide behind the crowd and didn't dare to make a sound. The God King of Hell raised his hands and began to applaud enthusiastically. He nodded affirmatively and said, "Good, good, good." He said "good" 3 times consecutively and applauded 3 times. The gods instantly understood. Although he was Ancestor Long Chen, the gods still clapped in front of him in a flattering manner. Now, the situation was different. The gods understood that if they offended Long Chen now, they would be looking for trouble for themselves. Everyone, disperse. Leave some space for 2 people. The God King of Hell's words had a hidden meaning. He glanced at Biyao, who had her head lowered, and smiled knowingly. The gods couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that Biyao and Long Chen's relationship was getting better. Although they didn't know what the God Emperor's stance on this matter was, Biyao was the only one who could contact Dijun. Even if they wanted to snitch on him, they couldn't do anything. Just as everyone was laughing ambiguously, Biyao suddenly raised her head. Her eyes were cold. She said, "No, everyone, don't leave. I want to fight with him too." As she spoke, she drew the 9-star imperial sword. Her light golden hair fluttered in the wind, and her dress fluttered, faintly revealing her perfectly round and smooth thighs. A pair of golden wings suddenly unfurled behind her, and they emanated boundless radiance. She seemed like a pure goddess that had descended to the world. She merely spoke a few words before she actually descended before Long Chen. She pointed the 9-star imperial sword at Long Chen and said, "You have to fight me as well. Let me see if you're really stronger than me." Judging from what she said, it was her idea to use Netherworld Immortal Lord to test his strength. Long Chen still did not understand why such an intimate thing had happened in the dream spirit realm. His purpose for coming here this time was to explain it to Biyao. After all, she was still a fledgling and had never experienced such things before. Being a little more intimate might cause her to think too much. Although there had been some interludes, Long Chen was still standing in front of her. He didn't expect her to have such thoughts. She actually wanted to attack him now. "Princess, we can talk. There's no need to fight. I'm here to explain things to you. I'll definitely give you an explanation. Is that okay?" Of course, Long Chen didn't want to fight with her. Fighting would only make things worse. It was better to explain things clearly and draw a clear line between them. After all, he was still concerned about where Lingxi would go next. He didn't have the time or energy to waste on her. "Impossible, all of you, get out of the way." Biyao seemed to have returned to her stubborn self from before. The gods were shocked and immediately retreated. It was said that women's thoughts were hard to guess. They had cultivated for tens of millions of years and were primordial true gods. Even now, they still didn't understand what was going on. And what did the explanation that Long Chen had mentioned before mean? Could it be that something special had happened between them? The gods were extremely curious. Although they avoided it, they still stared with wide eyes. You are a man. You have to take responsibility for everything you have done. If you can't, you can kill me today. When Biyao said this, the coldness she had created before finally collapsed. Tears could be seen in her eyes. Just as Long Chen wanted to explain, the other party rushed over. Jun's 3 swords. Graceful. The 9-star Emperor sword slashed out, and an enormous sword chi pierced through the sun like a rainbow, containing the supreme scorching sun law, scorching and vast, shattering everything. Biyao's strength was powerful, and using a creation-level creation divine weapon to display it was naturally extraordinary. Long Chen did not dare to be negligent, and hurriedly took out the exceptional dragon slaughtering saber. Demon Slayer. The peerless blade scripture was naturally not as good as Jun's 3 swords, but Long Chen had already cultivated the peerless blade scripture to a high level. Adding on to his surging power that was even greater than Biyao's, he used the demon-slaying blade to suppress the graceful sword, and sent the sword chi flying. But at this time, Jun flashed her golden wings, bit her lips, and attacked again. The second sword, 9 slaughters, was unleashed without mercy. This time, it was 9 sword chis, and each one was a high-level sword of rules. The 9 sword chis transformed into 9 golden crows that flapped their wings and soared, and each golden feather was formed from countless sword auras. What's wrong with her? Long Chen blushed with shame. Of course he could not stop, if not he would be killed. Of course, he did not want to fight Jun head-on, so he directly used the time dragon and left Biyao, preventing her from finding him. Forbidden dance. Seeing this, the other party directly sealed the space. Long Chen was in this space. Even if she couldn't find him, he wouldn't be able to move, so he had no choice but to think of other ways. In order to break the forbidden space dance, he needed majestic divine power, and his divine power just happened to be able to do this. But this also allowed Biyao to find him. You only know how to run, and not dare to face me. Are you still a man? Biyao was extremely angry, and once again attacked with the 9 slaughters. Seeing this scene, the various deities could not help but have their horizons widened. What was going on? Was it a small fight, or did Biyao want Long Chen to admit something? Biyao's words reminded him that if he kept dodging her, she would only continue to attack. She would not stop. Thinking of this, Long Chen directly stopped. His body was covered with blood-colored dragon scales, and he instantly entered a state of battle. For a moment, he only had one kind of aura, and that was killing intent. At this moment, his eyes were illusory, and he controlled the chaotic time reverse. After fusing with the laws, the chaotic time reverse became even more ferocious. Under Long Chen's control, Biyao, who was inferior to the Yellow Springs immortal monarch, was greatly affected. Long Chen instantly rushed forward, his hands transforming into dragon claws. This was the 10,000 death claws that he had not used for a long time. The 10,000 death claws directly grabbed Biyao's 9-star Emperor sword. Let go! Long Chen roared, his physical body and strength exploding. With a strength that could topple mountains and overturn seas, he forcibly snatched the 9-star Emperor sword from the other party's hands. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and wrapped it around Biyao's neck, restraining her. At such a close distance, Long Chen had a lot of initiative. He needed to have a good talk with this woman, so he had to make her stop. After he restrained her, Biyao indeed stopped. Her body went limp, and she directly fell on Long Chen. Before Long Chen could react, she hugged him like an octopus, and started crying. In that instant, Long Chen's head could only be described as huge. The gods looked at this scene in shock. They looked at the embarrassed Long Chen, and then looked at the helpless Biyao, who was crying her heart out. Although they were unwilling to see this beautiful flower stuck in cow dung, they couldn't help but suspect that something had really happened. In any case, from the looks of it, Biyao had completely fallen into this man's hands. She was holding him with both hands, and if Long Chen wanted to push her away, he might have to tear her hands off. In front of the gods, he naturally couldn't do that. Today, he was here to explain. But with Biyao in this state, was it even possible to explain? At this moment, the godly king of hell led the gods over and directly asked, Long Chen, did you do something to let the princess down, to make her cry so sadly? If you don't explain yourself today, don't even think about leaving here. The princess is our treasure. If you dare to bully her, you should know the consequences. Even the God King of Hell could only wait for the Divine Emperor to contact him personally. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to find Dijun. Only Biyao could communicate with him. But now, Biyao was the one in trouble. Originally, they thought that even if they loved each other, even if Long Chen was qualified to be with Biyao in the future, this kind of thing would require Dijun's approval. They didn't expect Long Chen to be so fierce. What made Long Chen's head hurt the most was that it was originally caused by the evil spirit in the dream spirit's realm. Now that Biyao said it, it seemed like he couldn't help himself. Moreover, he only touched her a few times, and nothing really happened. But he couldn't describe the details, and could only suffer in silence. Long Chen, how dare you? The God King of Hell shouted fiercely. The gods could see that even his heart seemed to be a little flustered. If the Divine Emperor knew that the princess had lost her chastity under his protection, and if the Divine Emperor didn't like Long Chen, he would definitely kill both him and Long Chen. If the Divine Emperor was enraged, it would be troublesome. Moreover, most fathers would be extremely hostile to the man who stole their daughter. Don't speak, I want him to answer my question. Biyao rebuked, making the restless gods shut their mouths. The God King of Hell could only express his anger in his eyes. The others, such as the demon gods, really loved to watch a show. Of course, the huge commotion between the gods would affect the entire sacrificial dragon continent at all times. Now, Biyao stretched out her delicate hands and stood in front of Long Chen, holding Long Chen's hands. Although there were tears in her eyes, she still said very gently, Forgive me. I actually said what happened between us here today, but I was too afraid. I was afraid that you would pretend that nothing happened, afraid that you would refuse to accept me because of Lingxi's matter. Although I am the princess of the Divine Emperor, I am also a woman, and there will only be one man in my life. Now that you have inexplicably become this man, I am very afraid that you will not be able to stay with me. I am afraid. Her two watery eyes waited for Long Chen's answer. After listening to this, Long Chen roughly knew what she was thinking. Just as Lingxi said, perhaps after returning from the Curse Realm, she already had a good impression of him. Then, after the matter with Lingxi, and then the matter with Dream Spirit Realm, it caused her to wholeheartedly focus on him. She had no way out, so she was afraid and afraid. However, no matter what, Long Chen could not be with her. He still had to wait for Lingxi to return together and kill the God King of Hell. Therefore, he thought for a moment and said cautiously, Princess, I originally came here to explain to you today. First, the matter with Dream Spirit Realm was indeed strange. What I did was completely out of my control, and I was only able to rein myself in at the brink of the precipice. Moreover, Princess is a precious person, while my status is lowly. Moreover, I have just lost the two most important people in my life, and I am still incomparably pained about matters of love. It is difficult for me to pick it up again, and even more difficult for me to continue. I will only delay Princess. I hope Princess can understand. Is this your answer? Biyao's tears turned into laughter. Everything she had hoped for had failed. At first, they were angry that Long Chen had done something wrong, but now they were angry that he still refused to admit it. Can't you give me a chance? Can't you give me a chance? Even if you want me to wait for you, I can do that. Long Chen, I can understand you, but you can't destroy me. In the past, I had a good impression of you, but it was just a good impression. I could still have a new life, but it's different now. I've decided on you, and I love you. If you have any pain in your heart, I can heal it for you. I'll change myself for you. I'll become someone you like, and I won't be willful anymore. Biyao was a little flustered. She tightly held onto Long Chen's hand, worried that he would leave. The gods were extremely angry. This was their dignified divine emperor princess, but she actually lowered her head in front of Long Chen. If the divine emperor saw this scene, he would definitely kill everyone involved to vent his anger. The god king of hell couldn't help but say, "Long Chen, let me speak my mind. I more or less understand the situation now. I really didn't expect something like this to happen. You might have taken Princess Diyao's identity too lightly. She is the daughter of Di Jun, the person with the highest status in the myriad of worlds. Now that you have done something wrong, if you take responsibility, you might still have a chance to live. If you don't even dare to take responsibility, then don't blame me for not reminding you. Not only will you harm yourself, you will also harm everyone related to you. Do you think that the divine emperor's temper would be as good as the princess? I'm not forcing you, you are the one who forced yourself into a dead end. I'm just giving you an analysis. I have high hopes for you, so don't disappoint me. Now that something has happened, the only way is to face it." The other divinities also chimed in. Princess Biyao lowered her status to be with you, but the god emperor might not even agree to it. You even committed such a mistake. Right now, the only way is to love each other deeply. Only then can you escape the god emperor's wrath. Otherwise, the god king of hell is right. Chapter 2675. Some things that touched the bottom line couldn't be compromised. For example, if Long Chen accepted Di Yao and announced their relationship to the world, there might be no trouble for him. In the future, as long as he worked hard, godly Emperor Jun might not do anything to him. If he didn't accept, even if Di Yao didn't do anything to him, his fate would be full of trouble. Moreover, she had already thrown caution to the wind, so it would definitely make her sad. After all, she was of noble status and had already put down her status to pursue him. In fact, Long Chen didn't understand why Di Yao liked him, but after what happened in the dream spirit realm, he couldn't care less about this problem. No matter what, he couldn't accept her, and she couldn't replace Lingxi's position in his heart. Even if he had to take a huge risk, even if he might hurt her, he couldn't compromise and agree to Di Yao for a moment of comfort. So, he shook his head and said, "Princess, I'm sorry. I don't know what the future will be, but at least for now, I haven't walked out of the shadow in my heart. Before I kill my enemy, I really can't let myself accept you. I hope Princess can forgive me. We've always been good friends, right?" In fact, he felt that he should have rejected her outright, but the situation was different now. There were other people watching, and if he didn't give Di Yao any face, it would definitely intensify the conflict and seriously hurt Di Yao. The consequences would be unimaginable. Although this was a rejection, it was at least within Di Yao's tolerance. Of course, in her estimation, under this kind of pressure, Long Chen should directly accept her. Just like her mother said, she was young and beautiful, and her status was unparalleled. No man could resist her, so when Long Chen announced his decision, even if Di Yao didn't break down, her heart ached. After all, for today, she had already put in a lot of effort. She had never worked so hard in such a humble manner before. Whether it was for love or because she really liked him, it didn't matter. In any case, there was no difference. For a moment, although she didn't break down, hot tears still flowed down her face. "Long Chen!" The god king of hell shouted angrily. Long Chen felt as if he had received a blow to the head. Thinking back to when he had just returned to the dragon sacrificial continent, this god king who was comparable to the war demon at his peak, and these gods all made him deeply apprehensive. But now he could take their glares calmly. This was a huge transformation brought about by his own advancement. From the battle of the Devil's Star to the gods now, he was different. The deity king of hell's voice was as loud as thunder as he said angrily, "The princess treats you so well and wholeheartedly for you. She doesn't even care about her face. She is a princess, yet she is so infatuated with you. Yet, you are grieving for her dead wife. You have betrayed her. Are you still a man? If you're an upright person, then you have to take responsibility for what you've done. Even if you've just encountered a disaster, it's not an excuse. You've made me angry today. If you can't understand, then you don't need to leave here today. I will personally kill you in place of the divine emperor. When the god king was enraged, all the gods retreated. Everyone in the world heard the roar, and all sorts of rumors began to spread, making the matter even more confusing. Soon, people began to speculate about what had happened between Long Chen and Biyao. It seemed that Long Chen's current rejection was a powerful counterattack to the rumors from back then. If he had killed his wife in order to get close to Princess Biyao, then he wouldn't have needed to reject now. However, what did the deity king of hell mean by taking responsibility? The emotional bond between them was really wonderful. However, everyone was still very shocked. In the past, all sorts of gods had tried to deal with Long Chen, but Long Chen had defeated them all. Now, the strongest among the gods, the deity king of hell, who surpassed all the gods, had launched an attack. No matter how heaven-defying Long Chen was, he would still suffer. In terms of fame, the deity king of hell was 10 times more famous than Divine Lord Netherworld. From Divine Lord to deity king, this was a gap that not many divine lords could cross. If the deity king of hell really wanted to punish Long Chen, then there would be no suspense. Therefore, everyone was very shocked. Would there be a new battle? Against the top existence that had returned to the gods, could the heaven-defying Long Chen still hold on after he had leveled up? Now that the Trillion God Palace had formed, everyone had a great sense of belonging to Long Chen. When Long Chen encountered danger, they were very nervous and concerned. The deity king of hell glared at Long Chen and threatened him. In a situation where he could explode at any time, Biyao suddenly slashed her sword at the deity king of hell. Her teary eyes were slightly red, but her gaze was incomparably cold. She said, "You don't have to care about this. This is my own business." Then, she looked at Long Chen gently and said, "Long Chen, go. I was too anxious today. I will find you another day and apologize for what happened today. No matter what, you must remember my feelings for you. Don't abandon me. You're right, I was too anxious and made things difficult for you. I promise I won't do this next time. But now, I have already decided that you are the person I want to love in this life. Go back and calm down first. We will have a good chat in the future." She became even more submissive in front of Long Chen. The deities were trembling with anger. This was the supreme divine emperor princess in their hearts. Long Chen was the one in the wrong, and it was Long Chen who had taken her innocence. She only wanted Long Chen to take responsibility, and in order to obtain his love, she had to lower herself to such an extent. It was indeed a grievance. If it was Biyao's previous personality, she would have been too lazy to even speak. She would have directly ordered the deity king of hell to kill Long Chen. She didn't have to do this. Now that things had reached such a stalemate, Long Chen knew that if he continued to pester her, it wouldn't be good. Although he had hurt Biyao and made her very sad, it was also because she had misunderstood him and forced him in public. If there was another chance, the two of them could have a good chat, but now wasn't the time. "Princess, farewell. After a few days, when we have calmed down, I will apologize to you again." With that, he walked past the gods and headed in the direction of the 5 great dragon cities. The gods, led by the deity king of hell, looked at Long Chen coldly, especially the deity king of hell. He really couldn't control himself and wanted to kill Long Chen, but he couldn't go against Biyao's wishes. But now, even if Long Chen proved his strength and potential, the connection between him and the gods was almost broken. Of course, the current him had the right to oppose the deity king of hell. Back when he attacked Lingxi, Long Chen hadn't forgotten for a single moment. Long Chen decisively left. As soon as he left, Biyao's expression became as cold as it could get. "Princess." The gods hurriedly surrounded her, their faces full of concern. They were really pissed off by Long Chen. If it weren't for Biyao still caring about him, they would have killed Long Chen 1,000,000 times over. Of course, right now, only the two deity kings could probably restrain him. Get out of my way. Don't bother me. Without my permission, no one can touch Long Chen, and no one can get close to my palace. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. She also left in a cloud of dust and returned to her temporary imperial residence after a short while. Everyone else in the temporary imperial residence was chased out by her. The rest of the gods looked at each other. Deity King, what should we do? The deity king of storm saw an opportunity to take revenge on Long Chen and was tempted to make a move. I think Princess Biyao is giving Long Chen too much face. It's not likely that they'll be together. Moreover, this Long Chen doesn't know what's good for him. He deserves to die. That's not the problem. It's the relationship between him and Princess Biyao. If he doesn't know what's good for him and let Deity Emperor Di Jun admit it, he'll die for sure. We didn't kill him right away because we didn't want Princess Biyao to be sad. But we can't go on like this. The deity emperor will find out sooner or later, and then we'll be in trouble. Biyao didn't want to kill Long Chen. If she didn't kill Long Chen wouldn't know what's good for him. So it was difficult to do both sides. The deity king of hell thought for a while and said, let's give Long Chen some time first. He has potential and is qualified to be the deity emperor's son-in-law. It's up to him. If he still doesn't know what's good for him, then we can only find a way to tell the deity emperor about this and wait for him to make a decision. That's it. Let's hope that Long Chen will be smart. The deity emperor's princess will be letting him off easy no matter what. I just don't understand. Princess Biyao has seen so many outstanding gods. Why would she like this guy? Not only did he not understand, but no one else did. It all happened too fast. Don't crowd around here. Let's go. The deity king of hell ordered. He returned to the deity city of hell. But on the way, the light deity king appeared in front of him and said, this is really strange. You used the fragrance of desire to kill his woman. It should be Princess Biyao's order. Chapter 2676. Biyao still hadn't recovered from her previous state. Her mother was very satisfied with her current state. She was like a young girl deeply in the river of love, and all her emotions were controlled by the man she loved. She was a little dazed and said in a daze, then what can we do now? I feel that with his personality, no matter how good I am to him, it will be very difficult for him to extricate himself from his pain and fall in love with me in a short time. The woman said, this was my mistake before. I took the wrong step and underestimated his persistence towards his woman. I thought that the natives of this world, no matter how high their potential and fate were, would shamelessly stick to you as long as you, the daughter of the divine emperor, as long as you fell in love with him. But now, in front of the gods, even if he offended them, even if he made you sad, he still insisted on his loyalty to the dead woman. He is indeed a very difficult person to deal with. Then what should I do? Biyao asked in a daze. I feel that no matter how you try to please him, it will probably be useless. This kind of man needs a very long time to be influenced, at least a few years. He might be able to forget the pain and choose to be with you. So even if you treat him infinitely well, it will take some time for him to accept you. But you don't have that time. Biyao panicked. Perhaps it was hypnosis, or perhaps it was her sincerity, but she was already very afraid of losing Long Chen. So she hurriedly said, then is there any way for me to get him? The woman suddenly smiled and said, my silly child, imagine the scene when you finally kill him. Biyao thought. Will your heart ache? Yes, it will hurt a lot. That's right. The more your heart aches, the better. That is your goal. He must love deeply, and you must also love deeply. So everything you do is for love, and nothing else. Now that we have discovered that he is a troublesome person, we can't deal with him the way we deal with ordinary men. We have to use a new method, and it will definitely succeed in one go, but you will also pay a price. Are you willing to pay this price? Biyao's eyes flashed. As long as I can get his love, I don't care about anything. Towards Diyao's performance, the woman was quite satisfied. She finally said the method. She said, according to my estimation, even if his heart is filled with guilt towards you, with the degree of his resistance today, he will need at least a few years to accept you, forget that woman, and fall in love with you. That's why this path won't work. Since gentle methods won't work, we'll use hatred. As long as you cooperate, we can use the heavenly incantation of indifference on him. Biyao asked nervously, what is the unruffled heavenly curse? This is a law I comprehended after becoming a god emperor. If Long Chen was affected by the heaven mantra of indifference, he would completely forget all the people he loved, including his lover, parents, and brothers. He would forget all the love. But when he woke up, he would give all the love he had for the whole world and everyone to the first person he saw. And you will be the first person he sees when he wakes up. Biyao thought about it carefully. She finally understood why so many terrifying existences were so afraid of her mother. This was a law of the God Emperor level. As long as one thought about it carefully, they would understand how terrifying it was. If it was Long Chen, the people he loved included his lover, his brothers, his parents, his friends, his seniors, and even the entire world. This kind of combination of love was quite terrifying. If all this love was transferred to one person, then Long Chen should be able to sacrifice everything for her. This was the power of the law, more flexible than the control of the soul demon. Because if it was controlled, the person being controlled would almost be a dead person, a puppet. But if it was the heavenly incantation of indifference, then Long Chen still had feelings, joy, anger, sorrow, and joy. Sometimes, a person's inner will could burst out with unimaginable power. This was the truly terrifying part of the heavenly incantation of indifference. Biyao asked incredulously, such a terrible law, if you use it, wouldn't you be able to control the myriad worlds? Why, the woman giggled, of course there's a price. I once wanted to use it on Dijun, but I failed. Because he's too powerful. Although I control it, I haven't succeeded so far, and there are many restrictions. First of all, the possibility of success, of course. Long Chen is still weak, I can deal with him, but because I'm here, I can't completely put my law on him. I need a long time to prepare, and then, in order to succeed, you have to put in a lot of effort and prepare with me. We need a lot of things. Finally, if we succeed, because I'm using your body this time, you will also pay the price. Of course, although this price is very high, compared to the final harvest of love, it seems to be nothing. Heavenly incantation of indifference. Biyao silently muttered these words, her whole body trembling. This was such a terrifying power, to be able to make a person transfer the love of the whole world to himself. Then how far would the love seed grow? If that was the case, what was the price to pay? Mother, let's prepare early. Biyao said excitedly. She was already tired of begging Long Chen. It was too hard. She felt that it was a huge blow to her heart. Okay, then I'll tell you in detail what you need to do to prepare, what kind of price you have to pay. You have to be mentally prepared. I didn't advocate using this method at first, because it's too scary, but now it seems that we have no other choice. We must finish the battle quickly. After returning, Mo Xiaolang and the Dragon Emperor were very concerned about him. They also wanted to know roughly what happened. There were exquisite carvings on it, and from the beautiful patterns, it should belong to the Ling clan. The entire Ling Su Star Ocean loved beauty. The snow-white jade corridor led to the depths of the void, and there seemed to be a snow-white palace in the depths. Lingxi passed through the corridor and finally arrived in front of the palace. This was a very huge palace. From left to right, it was the distance from Slaughter Dragon City to Fortune Dragon City. Standing in front of it, it was impossible to determine its height. In front of her was a crystal-clear gate, and on the signboard, there were two huge shining words, Su Palace. Regarding the gaming festival, I hope that everyone can vote for Dragon Blood War God to rush into the gaming market, and into the most anticipated new game leaderboard. The voting address was on Frenzied WeChat. These days, Frenzied WeChat will try to update as much as possible. If everyone is satisfied, then vote a few more monthly votes. If everyone is not too interested in the first monthly vote, then it will be even better if there is another 1 out of 100 monthly votes. Every 100 monthly votes, there will be one update. Voting address, 17K, computer version. Chapter 2677. Plain Palace. In front of the snow-white palace, the shoulders were thin, the waist was slender, the skin was smooth, and the aura was like an orchid. Ling Xi's eyes widened as she stared at the two gigantic words. Just a single stroke of the words was even larger than Long Chen's divine dragon body. Emperor Ling Su. Honored spirit and plain girl. This plain palace should be related to plain girl, Long Chen guessed. In fact, they still didn't know what the relationship between Emperor Ling Su, honored spirit, and plain girl was. There were many legends about plain girl. In the Arch regions, it was said that she had a feud with dragons. But from what they saw today, the legends should be false. Or rather, she wasn't a real dragon, but a dragon martial artist. Let's go in and take a look. Now, the two put aside Biyao's matter and focused on the magical plain palace. Lingxi looked inside curiously and floated in with light steps. This plain palace was huge, but it was very spacious inside. It was like an empty shell, and inside was an endless snow-white jade space. There's a very pure aura here that makes people feel very comfortable. It has a lot to do with Goddess Su's blood. After coming here, I have a feeling, as though I'm back in my mother's womb. Lingxi tilted her head and thought for a long time. Finally, she thought of a similar feeling. It was very soft and gentle, as though she belonged here. As she spoke, she continued to walk forward. The interior of the plain palace was too big. It was as endless as the void outside. But no matter where she was, she seemed to be able to hear the sound of flowing water. There seems to be a river or a lake far ahead. The closer I get to that direction, the stronger the aura of plain girl. It can evoke the reaction of my bloodline. This place should be related to Goddess Su's blood. One should know that Lingxi had more than 80% Goddess Su's blood. It was precisely because of her mistress Su's seal that both she and Long Chen had received a great deal of help. Hurry up and take a look. Long Chen encouraged her. Okay. Lingxi was filled with curiosity and surprise. After arriving here, her overall condition was very good. The power in her body and the surrounding snow-white mist formed a connection and circulation. She was absorbing the dense, pure, and incomparably comfortable snow-white mist. This snow-white mist was just like the blood of the goddess Su. She had the ability to purify evil. Until now, this was the purest power Long Chen had ever seen. Pure, ethereal, truly holy. It was different from Biyao's noble and holy aura. The deeper she went, the more the white mist seemed to condense into water. As Lingxi moved forward, a large amount of water mist began to flow into her body, giving her an unprecedented change. So beautiful, Lingxi looked at her surroundings. This world was simply too pure. Through the 3 lifetimes love thread, Long Chen could clearly see the changes in her body without Lingxi's description. This was a transformation that was like shedding one's mortal body and changing one's bones, just like when Long Chen became a god. Staying in this place should be changing your physical body, allowing your goddess Su's blood to play a greater role. If you continue forward, there will definitely be water. After all, there was a high possibility that the mist was emitted by water. Just the mist alone could bring such a great help to Lingxi, not to mention that water. Clearly, this place shouldn't be as dangerous as the heavenly sovereign realm's Sea of Swords. Okay. Lingxi nodded her head heavily. She was in a very good mood. The milky white mist seeped into every pore of her body, fusing with her blood vessels, strength, internal organs, bones, flesh, and blood. It was extremely comfortable, and she could feel that under the nourishment of this mist, she was also strengthening unceasingly. She continued forward against the mist. She had already walked for half a day. With her current speed, if she rushed at full speed, she would reach the end of the palace. However, she did not go at full speed. Instead, she experienced as she walked. After all, she needed to gradually adapt to the density of the milky white mist around her. After about a day, she was already very deep in. Now, she was surrounded by the milky white mist. She could not see clearly from a distance. The mist in the surroundings was so thick that it was not much different from being in a pond. It stuck to Ling Xi's body and continuously surged in, increasing the speed at which it was changing her physical body. This was changing her in a good direction. In just a short day, Ling Xi had already become much stronger. Under the nourishment of the mist that was similar to her own power, her physical body became like that of a divine spirit. It was stable and even transcendent, achieving an extremely pure temperament. This was the direction in which she vaguely grew. So comfortable, Ling Xi squinted her eyes and walked for so long. The sound of the water was getting clearer. She confirmed that even if she did not need water, she only needed to stay here for a while and she would get an unexpected transformation. I understand now. God Emperor Ling Su wants to forge you into a pure immortal source body. God Emperor Ling Su herself is a pure immortal source body. There can only be one pure immortal source body in the 10,000 worlds at the same time. In other words, it is very likely that she has already perished. Suddenly, Su Jian's 9-colored butterfly said in pain. His original master might have died. After he left, he had never seen him again. It had been too long. Suddenly knowing that he had disappeared, he could not help but feel sad. Don't be like this. That old guy has lived for so long, tens of millions of years. He should have died. Is big sister Lingxi not treating you well now, little Su? Long Chen believed that when she left this place and returned to the eternal celestial domain, no one would be able to control her life. She could do whatever he wanted and not be a burden. Although Long Chen didn't care, Lingxi would. She was afraid that Long Chen would lose her. She was also afraid that her daughter would lose her. Therefore, this was the most important stop on the road to fulfilling her wish. He was sincerely happy for her. To her, this was the greatest happiness. What she desired was the pure immortal source body in front of her. The purest power of purification. Just like Lingxi, pure, ethereal, and natural. Big brother Chen, when I return, I will become even more beautiful, right? Ling Xi suddenly smiled. Right now, there was only joy in her heart. Fate had given her this opportunity today. Thank you, God Emperor Ling Su. She gave you what you wanted the most. Enjoy your adventure. Long Chen heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. It was as if he could foresee the future when Ling Xi wielded the Ling Su dual swords and fought with him against the gods. That day wasn't far away. Great news. I'm giving everyone the best gift for Singles Day, from November 11th to December 11th, for an entire month. 17K readers will be able to read Dragon Blood God of War for free. If you use your phone to read, you can download a 17K novel app. Change 17K to a number. If you use your computer to read, open 17K directly. The best reading page, completely free, and updated the fastest. Madman promises that during the free period, no matter if you use the computer or the app to ask questions in the book review section, Madman will reply personally. Answer everyone's questions. This was Madman's home base. In the past, people didn't read the original for a fee. Now that it's free, there's no reason for people to read the pirated version, right? We can't give all the traffic to the black-hearted profiteers of the pirated website, right? Therefore, I'm waiting for everyone to come to the home of dragons. Chapter 2678. The entire Element Palace was filled with Element Immortal Origin energy. The core of the Element Immortal Origin energy was in this pool. Many of the scattered portions were also imprisoned in the Element Palace. This place gathered all the Element Immortal Origin energy in the myriad worlds. After absorbing enough mist, Lingxi's eyes became clearer. Her vision passed through the layers of pure immortal origin energy and saw a total of 9 snow-white stone lions around the pool. The stone lions were mighty and domineering. The temperament of the king of beasts was displayed clearly. Moreover, they were pure and flawless. Their entire bodies were snow white without a trace of impurity. It was as if they were carved out of jade. They were very perfect. Even their eyes were as white as gems. The pure immortal origin energy that was condensed into liquid came from the mouth of these stone lions. I didn't expect the 9 plain lions to fall to such a state. Back then, they accompanied Celestial Emperor Ling Su to roam the world. Their name was also known throughout the myriad realms. They are not demonic beasts, but strange creatures. They are also born directly by the heavens and earth. They have existed for countless years and have been guarding the pure immortal origin energy. Now, they are asleep. Their power comes from the pure immortal origin energy. If you can achieve the pure immortal origin energy, they might wake up again. Pure lions. To the current Ling Shi, they were cold and mysterious at the same time. She headed towards the pool. The most important thing now was naturally to try and see if she could fuse with the pure immortal origin energy and achieve the pure immortal origin energy. As for how long this process would take, no one knew. In the blink of an eye, she arrived in front of the pool. The mist around her vaguely revealed her peerless appearance. Her jade-like skin and snow-white skin were almost no different from the milky mist. Almost without hesitation, she floated gently towards the pool that was filled with pure immortal origin energy. The depth of the pool was just enough to submerge her. Starting from her slender and delicate jade-like feet, when she touched the pool formed by the milky white pure immortal origin energy, her clothes gradually disappeared. Knowing that her entire body was submerged in the pure immortal origin energy, she was naked. At this moment, she had completely fused with the pure immortal origin energy. It was equally pure and flawless. Even though he was her man, when he saw this scene, Long Chen was still a little stunned. The pure immortal origin energy seemed to exist for her. Lingxi felt like she was soaking in the purest milk. But this was the pure immortal origin energy. It was the primordial power that appeared with the birth of the world. When Lingxi completely came in contact with the source power of the pure immortal realm, the quiet source power of the pure immortal realm suddenly boiled and invaded, or modified, Lingxi at a steady speed, allowing her to be reborn and advance towards the source body of the pure immortal realm. This was the rarest and most effective rebirth she had ever experienced. From her skin to her flesh, from her flesh to her internal organs, to her bones, to the world tree, to her divine palace, to her spiritual sea and primordial spirit, everything that belonged to her started to go through a very mild change after being integrated with the original force of pure immortal. Up until now, the modifications that Long Chen had endured were basically violent. However, the pure immortal origin power was different. It was a kind of gentle purifying power. Although the process was gentle, it was very fast. Long Chen was connected with Lingxi through the love thread of 3 lifetimes, so he was even more aware of every single change in her body. She was growing stronger to the extreme. Not only would her body eventually become that eternal, pure immortal origin power, even her power would start to have this nature. The pure immortal origin power was currently being integrated into her body. If she succeeded in the end, all the pure immortal origin power in the entire pure palace would probably be absorbed by her. At that time, even if she couldn't unleash her super strength in a short period of time, at least in terms of nature and physique, she would surpass many people. According to the current speed, Long Chen estimated the time and said, "It'll take about a month. During this month, you just stay here obediently." Lingxi snorted lightly. Her voice made one go numb. Clearly, this rebirth was indeed a kind of enjoyment for her. Long Chen's heart that was hanging in suspense was completely relaxed. No matter how strong Lingxi was, he couldn't be left behind. Now that he had just achieved the Taiji divine realm and become a deity, he had also integrated all his mystiques with nomological power. He needed to consolidate. Defeating the ultimate realm Divine Lord Netherworld did not excite him. This was because he knew that although Divine Lord Netherworld was already very terrifying, he wasn't his goal. His goal should be to make the returning primordial deities unable to control his fate. He didn't like it when his fate was in the hands of others. Hell Divine City. In the depths, the divine king of hell was resting in a dark room with his eyes closed. Suddenly, there was a clank. A skinny figure stood in front of him. Under the withered skin, blue veins protruded. He looked very ferocious. Clearly, he was in a furious mood. You finally dared to return. The divine king of hell raised his head coldly. The person standing in front of him was Divine Lord Netherworld. After being defeated by Long Chen, Divine Lord Netherworld fled immediately. He was too ashamed to face anyone. He probably went out to vent his anger. The world inside the Yellow Springs Heavenly Scroll was a world of death. Apart from death, there was nothing else. Where is this place? After arriving here, it was as if they had arrived at Long Chen's death realm. Everything was sealed. Mo Xiaolang had wanted to inform Long Chen immediately, but he couldn't do so through the star talisman. In fact, he also had faith in Long Chen. Through the connection, he believed that Long Chen could feel his anxiety. This was something that the Yellow Springs Divine Lord had overlooked. Although he knew that Long Chen had become a god through faith, he didn't know that even the two people around Long Chen had absolute faith in Long Chen. Seeing the surging Yellow Springs, Mo Xiaolang shouted in a deep voice, "Yellow Springs Divine Lord, stop hiding. I know it's you. Didn't my big brother beat you up badly? You're looking for us to take revenge on him, aren't you? You're a joke. You're a god who has cultivated for tens of millions of years, yet you're still playing this kind of game?" The Yellow Springs Heavenly Scroll shook as he spoke. "No matter what you say, you're dead today. As long as you die, he'll pay the price. It's not like you don't know my reputation. Ever since I became a god, there hasn't been a grudge that I couldn't take." As his voice echoed, the entire world inside the Yellow Springs Heavenly Scroll shook. The Yellow Springs Divine Lord was assassinating them, so he wouldn't give Mo Xiaolang a chance to buy time. "I'll let you go to the real Yellow Springs and let you be a pair of lovebirds." A wolf and a snake, what a joke. Rumble. The Yellow Springs Heavenly Scroll raged. To Mo Xiaolang's surprise, the water of the Yellow Spring in the Yellow Spring Heavenly Diagram was originally dark, evil, and dirty. The Yellow Spring law itself was a corrosive and decaying law, a kind of corrosion to the soul and the body. However, in the Yellow Spring Heavenly Diagram, all the water was burning with yellow flames. Water and fire fused. The water was the water of the Yellow Springs, and the fire was the fire of the Yellow Springs. They both had the power and nature of the Yellow Springs law, but they had different levels of attack. The water corroded the body, and the fire burned the essence soul. Water and fire fused, and the body was destroyed. Hell Samsara, Yellow Springs water and fire. Boom. Boom. The Yellow Springs Heavenly Scroll was in a complete state of chaos. All the Yellow Springs water formed a huge vortex of samsara, and all the flames were attached to it. The evil flames were very similar to the 9 hell demon ancestral fire. "Heed my command, refine." Divine Lord Netherworld was extremely ruthless. His body had fused with the Yellow Springs Heavenly Scroll, and he controlled it from the inside. This was the greatest strength of the Heavenly Scroll. Mo Xiaolang and Soi Eon exchanged looks without a word. Against such an ambush, they obviously had to ensure that they wouldn't die. Therefore, at that moment, the sun-devouring fiend wolf and devil Wa's true body instantly appeared. It was a gigantic black wolf, a behemoth that resembled a snake but had wings and 4 limbs. In terms of ferocity, Devil Wa was even more shocking than the sun-devouring fiend wolf. It had to be said that a final realm divine lord coupled with a creation-level creation divine artifact far exceeded their level. Even if they joined forces, they could only deal with a primordial realm divine lord. However, they also had things they were good at. For example, Mo Xiaolang. When he saw the flames of the netherworld, he did not hesitate to transform into the sun-devouring fiend wolf and devour the massive flames. He was the nemesis of flames. Although the flames of the netherworld's burning powers were rather terrifying, under his protection, the flames could not harm them despite not being able to devour them cleanly. However, the other party's strength was just too immense. It wasn't just the netherworld heavenly scroll, but the attacks of a final realm divine lord. Can you devour the flames? However, can you devour them cleanly? Divine Lord Netherworld's loud laughter sounded. He was just beside the duo, ready to attack at any moment. Brother Xiaolang, what do we do? Hold on. Mo Xiaolang did not wish to risk his life at all. Although the Netherworld Heavenly Scroll's confinement was very tight, he knew that Long Chen would definitely hear his calls. All he needed to do now was hold on. Although Divine Lord Netherworld was arrogant now, he would be in trouble once Long Chen arrived. You can't kill us. Once my brother arrives, with his temper, I reckon you will die today, said Mo Xiaolang with a heavy heart. What a joke. In my Netherworld Heavenly Scroll, even if a godly monarch descends, he won't be able to save you. Divine Lord Netherworld mobilized millions of Netherworld water fire and descended mightily. The water and fire cycled and churned constantly. Even if Mo Xiaolang could devour the flames, he could not withstand the Netherworld water fire. Once he was tainted by the Netherworld water fire, his body would be riddled with holes. The impact sent Mo Xiaolang flying to Soyan's side. The Netherworld water fire corroded his body, leaving many wounds. Even the God-fiend body could not withstand such terrifying laws. The next time will be the day you die. Divine Lord Netherworld laughed sinisterly. Brother Xiaolang, let me do it. Seeing that Mo Xiaolang was injured, Soi Yan was so angry that her face turned pale. Her demon Wa body rushed to the front. After devouring Thunder God from the 9th heaven, she became stronger. When the Netherworld water fire descended, she tore open a huge black hole and devoured all of Divine Lord Netherworld's attacks. Interesting, interesting. I want to see how much you can devour with the endless Netherworld water fire. Divine Lord Netherworld laughed. But he was soon dumbfounded. Demon Wa's black hole was endless. If this continued, the Netherworld Heavenly Scroll would be exhausted to death. He originally planned to use the Netherworld Heavenly Scroll to refine the two little guys. After all, he did not care about their strength at all. But from the looks of it, he had to do it himself. Swoosh. He suddenly appeared in front of Soyan. Yellow Dragon comes out. The ultimate divine sovereign punched out, repelling Demon Wa and shattering the black hole. The unrestrained yellow springs water and fire descended like a tsunami. Although Demon Wa and the sun-devouring demonic wolf were huge, they seemed so tiny in the face of this disaster. Brother Xiaolang. Soyan was shocked. They felt a great threat. I'll block it. You attack that direction. Quick. Mo Xiaolang suddenly pointed in a direction for Soyan. He would block the Netherworld Heavenly Scroll's power himself. Although she didn't know what Mo Xiaolang meant, why did he attack in such an inexplicable direction, and she was quite worried that he would face such an attack by himself. Their tacit understanding of each other for many years told her that this was the most dangerous moment. She had to obey Mo Xiaolang's command to find a way out. Obviously, Mo Xiaolang would ask him to do something dangerous by himself, but as a man, he had to do it. Therefore, when sun-devouring dire wolf rushed forward to block the Netherworld samsara, Soyan tore open another huge black hole, even bigger than the previous one. Chapter 2680. The sun-devouring dire wolf and Demon Wa attacked at the same time. When the sun-devouring dire wolf charged into the endless yellow spring samsara with the fire-forbidden zone to fight against it, Demon Wa's black hole law was unleashed to the greatest extent. There was no yellow springs water or fire to attack. Soyan could only vaguely guess what Mo Xiaolang wanted him to do. Indeed, her black hole law tore a small hole in the sealed yellow springs heavenly diagram. This was Divine Lord Yellow Spring's miscalculation. He had underestimated the power of Soyan's black hole law. Tearing and devouring. Even if it was a creation divine weapon, it was normal for it to be unable to block it because it was inside. Divine Lord Yellow Spring hurriedly let the Yellow Spring's heavenly diagram repair the hole. But now, he almost laughed out loud, because at this moment, even Mo Xiaolang's fire-forbidden domain couldn't withstand the joint attack of him and the underworld heavenly diagram. At this moment, Mo Xiaolang was completely submerged by his underworld water fire. However, at that moment, Divine Lord Yellow Spring felt an unprecedented murderous intent. This murderous intent didn't come from Mo Xiaolang or Soyan. It came from the outside world. He actually sensed the existence of the outside world. Just as he turned his gaze to the outside world, something even more terrifying happened. The murderous intent from the outside world had actually shifted to the inner world. The passageway was naturally the small hole that Soyan had just created. Moreover, it had almost recovered. A person appeared inside the Yellow Spring's heavenly diagram out of thin air. Divine Lord Yellow Spring focused his eyes and saw that it was none other than Long Chen. Intense murderous intent. How did you know? He panicked. According to the plan, Long Chen couldn't have come here. He didn't understand faith. To Mo Xiaolang, Long Chen was his faith. When his emotions changed drastically, Long Chen could sense it. He could even clearly see what was happening around Mo Xiaolang. When he saw the Yellow Spring sky diagram, he naturally trembled with anger. Back then, Lingxi had been attacked and almost killed by the God King of Hell. That scene was very similar to what was happening now. Both had been done by the gods of primeval times, and both had been hidden from Long Chen. And yet, both had inflicted heart-wrenching, lung-splitting pain. It was enough for Long Chen to try it once. He did not expect that there would be a second time right under his nose. This time, it was not the Divine King of Hell, but the Divine Lord of Hell who was under the Divine King of Hell. If he could tolerate it the first time, he could not tolerate it the second time. Everyone had a certain limit, and the one in front of him was Long Chen's limit. He saw something. He saw that both Mo Xiaolang's physical body and primordial spirit were under the attack of the Yellow Spring's laws. In order to let Long Chen in, he had suffered great damage. There was no time for hesitation. There was only one thing to do, and that was to kill. Storm of Time. He suddenly transformed into a void cosmic dragon and blasted out with the storm of time. The power of time tore apart the Yellow Spring samsara around Mo Xiaolang. His divine dragon limbs grabbed Mo Xiaolang's body, and he instantly transformed into a Tai Chi spiritual dragon. He was full of vitality, and it was clearly the nemesis of the Yellow Spring's laws. All of the injuries on Mo Xiaolang's body were rapidly recovering. Take care of him. Long Chen was about to throw Mo Xiaolang to Soyan. He looked rather cold, but both Mo Xiaolang and Soyan knew that Long Chen was at his most terrifying. The first time the Divine King of Hell had tried to assassinate Lingxi, he had been extremely angry. His hatred had reached a boiling point, but for the sake of the bigger picture, he had endured it. The blades flashed with a cold light and were filled with murderous intent. Divine prison of sabers and swords. Without a word, he began his killing spree. Not only did the divine prison of sabers and swords occupy the entire Yellow Spring's heavenly diagram, but he also charged at the Divine Lord of Hell. This attack was different from the previous spar. Long Chen did not hold back. In his heart, this was an enemy who had almost killed his brother and sister. There was nothing more to say. Kill. Divine prison of sabers and swords, Karma King sword. The Divine Lord of Hell's heart was boiling. He mobilized the water and fire in the Yellow Spring samsara and bombarded Long Chen. Long Chen condensed the divine prison of sabers and swords into a huge sword, tearing the Yellow Spring samsara apart. Then, the sharpest Karma King sword in his glabella exploded, forming the Karma King realm in the Yellow Spring's heavenly diagram. Boom! An endless world trapped the Divine Lord of Hell. Where is this? What responded to him was the most terrifying Karma King sword. This was the judgment of the divine Wei heart-refining dragon. It was a fusion of laws and divine powers, and was one of Long Chen's strongest attacks. Pierce. The divine Lord of Hell was shocked. However, he had temporarily lost control of the Yellow Springs heavenly diagram after being isolated by the Karma King realm. He could only use his own means, such as the endless sea of bitterness, to restrain Long Chen. However, Long Chen could break through his endless sea of bitterness once, so he could do it again. Finally, the Karma King's sword pierced through the divine Lord of Hell. Ugh! The divine Lord of Hell was heavily injured. His divine body and primordial spirit were severely injured. Once the Karma King realm was broken, the divine Lord of Hell vomited blood and fell to the ground. Now, Long Chen's karma nomological power was still wreaking havoc in his body. If he did not get rid of the karma power, he would not be able to recover even after 1,000,000 years. He did not expect that he would be defeated so quickly. He was momentarily stunned. You actually dared to injure me so severely. Aren't you afraid of the godly King of Hell? The divine Lord of Hell had never been worried that he would die. This was because under the rule of the godly emperor, even the godly king did not care about killing other gods. He had failed to assassinate Mo Xiaolang and Sui Yan, but he subconsciously believed that now that his plan had failed, Long Chen would at most defeat him and teach him a lesson. That sword was too ruthless. Therefore, the divine Lord of Hell was furious and afraid. What kind of power is this? Hurry up and force it out of my body. He stabilized his body and continued to be aggressive. Today, he had admitted defeat. He finally admitted that he was not Long Chen's match. However, he did not expect that the response would be Long Chen's blade. He had already transformed into his human form. With the peerless dragon salure in his hand, his expression was cold. Without saying a word, he chopped down on his own head. Time fracture. This was his most terrifying time ability. Previously, he had been heavily injured, and now that he had received this attack, the divine Lord of Hell had lost all of his power. He was instantly weakened to the extreme, and at this time, even a divine general would be able to take care of him. It had been a long time since he had been in such a miserable state. The divine Lord of Hell was dumbfounded. What exactly was this Long Chen trying to do? When he saw Long Chen's cold eyes, he was frightened and afraid. Long Chen clearly wanted to kill him. For a moment, he was so scared that his entire body trembled. Even though he only had half his life left, he still struggled and warned in a shrill voice, "If you want to kill me, try and see if the two godly kings will kill you." The death of the thunder god from the 9th heaven last time was already the limit. Do you think that the divine rules are something that you can violate? He was confident that Long Chen would not dare to violate the divine rules. Who said I was going to violate the divine rules? Long Chen's words made the divine Lord of Hell feel a little more at ease. It seemed that he still did not dare to kill him. However, he had overlooked a fact. To Long Chen, they were still in the Yellow Springs heavenly diagram, so no one knew what was happening inside. Therefore, at this moment, Long Chen pressed down on his head and threw him in the direction of Sui Yan. "Yenner, swallow him." These 5 words were the most terrifying nightmare that the divine Lord of Hell had ever heard in his life. He had just heaved a sigh of relief, but when he heard these 5 words, he was so scared that his entire body trembled. Yes. Demon Wa rushed over. She hated the divine Lord of Hell very much. He had almost killed Mo Xiaolang just now. Sui Yan was not inflexible. She was also a demon now. The divine Lord of Hell thought that she would be polite just because she looked young. However, what she displayed was a black hole. The strength of Long Chen's throw rendered the divine Lord of Hell unable to move. He could not even say a word as he crashed into the black hole and was swallowed by Sui Yan. Before entering the black hole, his expression was as terrified as one could imagine, and as regretful as one could imagine. Unfortunately, no matter who it was, there was no chance for regret. Mo Xiaolang took this opportunity to constantly devour the flames in the Yellow Springs heavenly diagram. This matter was not over yet. He had to make everything disappear. Long Chen grabbed at the void and pulled out a huge python. This was the creation heroic spirit of the Yellow Springs heavenly diagram. Your master is dead. You know what to do? Asked Long Chen. The python trembled constantly and said, yes. I know. Master, you will be my master from now on. It was even harder for Long Chen and the others to see her in the Yellow Springs heavenly diagram seal. As soon as they came out of the Yellow Springs heavenly diagram, Biyao caught up with them from afar. Long Chen was shocked. Fortunately, it was Biyao. If there were other gods nearby, they would definitely be suspicious. They might even be sure that Long Chen had killed Sir God Netherworld. If this matter were to spread, Long Chen would definitely face punishment under the divine rule. According to the divine rule, he would be executed. However, since it was Biyao, there was still a way to save her. You guys go back first. Long Chen said to Mo Xiaolang and the others. Okay. Mo Xiaolang knew that Long Chen would resolve it. Therefore, he exchanged glances with Soi Eon and the two of them returned to Eternal Dragon City first. This battle was very secretive because Divine Emperor Netherworld didn't want the fact that he had killed Mo Xiaolang and Biyao to be leaked. Biyao must have appeared here because she happened to run into him. Today, Biyao's mood was much gentler. It was as if she had forgotten the conflict between the two of them many days ago. She had a faint smile on her face. It was not like her. It was a forced smile, and there was deep sorrow in her eyes. At the same time, she was becoming more and more obsessed with Long Chen. At this time, even Long Chen could see that she liked him. Perhaps it was the power of love that turned her from an unruly, willful, and domineering princess into a timid and obedient little girl who was willing to compromise. Long Chen said in a low voice, "What did you see?" Biyao came in front of him and stared at him. She said softly, "I saw nothing. I came to find you and apologize." Her tone was very light and soft. It was rare for her to have such a comfortable side. That kind of gentleness was almost unbearable for Long Chen. You really didn't see anything? For example, you killed a god? Long Chen asked suspiciously. That's not the point. I came to apologize to you. Previously, I was too anxious. I was afraid and anxious for you to give me an explanation. I ignored your feelings and brought him a lot of trouble. Now, I've thought it through. Even if some accidents happened, feelings can't be forced. If you don't want it now, I can wait for you for a very, very long time, even tens of millions of years. In any case, I've already decided in this lifetime. She looked at Long Chen nervously. Her light golden eyes were shining with a faint light of tears. They looked crystal clear like gems. Her skin was as smooth as snow, and her figure was graceful. Everything about her was perfect. She must have seen him kill Sir God Netherworld. But she didn't mention it. She didn't even care about this matter, which was really a big deal for everyone. To her, maybe their previous relationship was more important. Long Chen was even more confused. Why was she like this? Was his charm really that great? They had only known each other for a short time, but this divine emperor princess was already so determined to follow him? He thought for a while and explained, "Princess, the awkwardness between us probably started in the dream spirit's realm. I really have to explain this to you. When I killed the last evil spirit, a red light appeared on its body and affected me. It caused me to almost lose control of my body, which was why I was rude to you. It wasn't my intention, so please forgive me. I'm not lying." Biyao pursed her lips and smiled. "I know, you're not that kind of person. But this is fate. I'm very grateful for this change. It gave us a chance to be together. You're the first man in my life. I'll never forget you." Long Chen couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. He tried to explain. Actually, I'm not really your man. I'm just. Anyway, we didn't progress to the point of success at that time, so it doesn't really count. Hearing this, Biyao's face turned red. Her heart was in a mess as she said, But since I was young, no one has ever treated me like this. Not to mention you saw me naked and even touched me. So to me, this is already enough. Don't quibble, you won't be such an irresponsible person. At worst, if you feel that you didn't succeed, I can let you succeed. In any case, I'm already yours. Seeing her bashful look, Longchen felt that the more he explained, the more she would misunderstand. The experience in the dream spirit's realm was inexplicable. But it had to be said that it was very difficult to get rid of this trouble. If Biyao wanted to be forceful, he could resist, like the last time. But this time, she actually wanted to be gentle. She was completely like a little girl. Longchen wondered if she would run away if he slapped her. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that when Lingxi returned, she would give up on this idea. It wasn't the right time to reject her. After all, she was the victim in this matter. She had a noble status, and Longchen didn't want to provoke her to the point of going berserk. That would be troublesome. Moreover, she had seen him kill the Yellow Springs immortal. If he pushed her too far, she might report it to the God King of Hell. First, the elemental immortal source power in the pool decreased every day. After about a month, this gentle yet terrifying metamorphosis was almost successful. Not only all the elemental immortal source power in the pool, but even the entire elemental palace and every trace of mist were all fused with Lingxi. Even Longchen couldn't imagine how terrifying she would become. He only knew that now that he and Lingxi had settled so much, when the child was born, they would communicate again. It would definitely be very effective for both of them. How perfect was Lingxi now? She was shrouded in pure light, and one could vaguely see her peerless face and alluring figure. Even her slightly bulging belly had become so perfect. She didn't look like a human anymore, but more like the most perfect and delicate jade in the world. Even Long Chen's heart was filled with yearning when he saw her. This was the most holy and purest woman in the world. Towards her, Long Chen's heart was filled with more respect and protection. The elemental immortal source power had changed everything about her. Even in its initial state, it was still very shocking. At least, it had reached a level that Long Chen couldn't understand. Although Lingxi wasn't a god yet, she had the elemental immortal source power. At least in terms of physique, she had surpassed most gods, even Long Chen. This is just the initial state of the elemental immortal source power. In the future, as my realm grows, the elemental immortal source power will also gradually grow until it reaches the level of eternal rank. But by then, I should have already reached the God Emperor realm. This is very difficult. Lingxi was quite clear about her current situation. Long Chen was simply intoxicated. Even her voice had become more enchanting than before. Just a few words, and he couldn't help but be enchanted by her. In this world, there seemed to be no one more perfect than her. But there was one thing. On this dragon sacrificial continent, apart from innate talent, it seemed that only belief could become a god, just like Long Chen. But in fact, all the gods seemed to have lost their belief, and Lingxi herself didn't have anyone who believed in her. So what should she do next? Could she become a god like him? Just as Long Chen was still thinking, a sudden change occurred. Lingxi suddenly said quietly, "Chen, the great calamity of gods and demons is coming." Long Chen also discovered that the world tree was about to take shape. Although its range and scale were much smaller than his, it was still bigger than Mo Xiaolong's. But it was still very terrifying. I seem to have innate talent to become a god. This pure immortal source form is one of my innate talents. In other words, it's very likely that I've long reached this level, but I'm just lacking a kind of innate talent. And now, the pure immortal source form has given me this kind of innate talent. Do you feel confident? Long Chen was rather worried. No problem. What he heard was Lingxi's confident words. Long Chen felt extremely gratified for her. At the same time, he also felt proud. She made up her mind to become stronger, and then she succeeded. Perhaps the heavens were creating her, but this was also inseparable from her perseverance and hard work. Just like when she chose to put down the spiritual sword and the pure sword to deal with Biyao. The pure snow-white world tree appeared above the pure palace. After leaving the pure palace, Lingxi had already become the core of the world tree. At this moment, all of Long Chen's thoughts were on her. This was two of the three most important women in his life. Apart from his mother, Yang Yu, who wasn't here, his lover and daughter were all undergoing the test of the great calamity of gods and demons. If it was in the past, Long Chen definitely wouldn't be at ease, but now he had full confidence in Lingxi. He believed that she would definitely be able to complete it. The snow-white world tree was crystal clear and full of luster, just like Lingxi herself. She had just achieved the pure immortal source form, and the great calamity of gods and demons should have forged her even more solid, majestic, and boundless power. Lingxi had truly changed. This was the second time in her life that she had experienced such a huge change. In the past, in order to be a good wife, she changed from lively to gentle. Now, in order to protect her family, in order to catch up to Long Chen, she changed from gentle to magnanimous and powerful. Every move she made was worthy of respect. Long Chen's gaze was also on the world tree. He saw Lingxi's transformation in the great calamity of gods and demons with his own eyes. Whether it was the formation of the heart of law or the condensation of the world tree and the god palace, it was extremely painful. Lingxi was like an ordinary deity, forming a billion god palaces. However, her god palaces were not living beings, but the pure immortal source form. It was the purest power. The great calamity of gods and demons was a continuous tribulation that required perseverance. Lingxi gritted her teeth and persevered, her expression unchanged. On the basis of the transformation of the pure immortal source form, another transformation occurred, allowing her pure immortal source form to rush to the god tier. The world tree, the god palace, and the heart of law were all perfect. In the heart of law, there was a primordial spirit that was like a real person. Lingxi herself had two kinds of Dao seals, namely the immortal sword Dao seal and the plain lady Dao seal. The immortal sword Dao seal fused with the Ling Su god sword Dao, while the plain lady Dao seal fused with the pure immortal source form. And now, when the torrent of law appeared, it was time for her to truly embark on the path of law. She was proficient in the laws. Be it God Emperor Ling Su's sword or the pure law, she could comprehend and cultivate them. The vast torrent of law appeared around the world tree. This almost meant that Lingxi had succeeded in becoming a deity. This time, she had gained a huge harvest. She was going to find the laws. The immortal sword law was in fact rather unorthodox. As for the plain law, it was almost the same as the karma law. It was even harder to find. Whether one could find it depended on luck and one's comprehension of the laws. After experiencing the cleansing of the pure immortal source form and the comprehension of the mortal sword Dao intent, it could be said that it was no problem for Lingxi to pursue these two laws. When she fused the immortal sword law and the plain lady Dao seal into the immortal sword Dao seal and the plain lady Dao seal, it meant that she had directly become a deity. Just like Long Chen, she had achieved the great ultimate god realm. In some aspects, she had even surpassed Long Chen. For example, the pure immortal source form. Lingxi had just become a deity. What she condensed wasn't the god spirit source form but the pure immortal source form. This meant that she didn't need to cultivate the infinite divine technique at all. In the future, her power level and physique would grow along with her cultivation realm. The pure immortal source form would evolve and become stronger. Even the current pure immortal source form was equivalent to the power of the creation realm. This was the result of the God Emperor. God Emperor Ling Su had almost left everything to her. Yesterday's news about the lunatic had spread far and wide. It was on the headlines of several major portals and hundreds of media outlets. Even television and other newspapers had it. Even my relatives and classmates saw it. Let's not talk about anything else and continue to write hard. Also, this 17K novel site is free. Everyone, come and support the original novel. Students who have mobile phones can just download a 17K novel app. The lunatic would communicate with everyone in the comments section. Chapter 2683. So, at this moment, even she felt like she was dreaming. From the moment she entered the Sky Supreme Sword Ocean to the Plain Palace, after she became a god, she experienced a huge change. From a living being, she became a god. She even became a special god. Even Long Chen himself was amazed by it. Even though Biyao was watching him cultivate, he couldn't help but smile. Of course, he was the happiest for Lingxi to be able to fulfill her own wish. Because she realized her value. Now, everything was over. The Tree of World and the Torrent of Rules disappeared from the Plain Palace. Lingxi's body emitted a snow-white jade light, and she returned to the Plain Palace. Now, there was nothing in the Plain Palace. The pure immortal source power had disappeared. With her newly formed god's spiritual eyes, she could see the entire Plain Palace at a glance. Lingxi narrowed her eyes as she sensed the changes in her body. She could not help but feel shocked as she murmured, "Brother Qin, I feel as if I've become a new life. I'm no longer immortal. Is this what it's like to be a god? No, it should be a god with the pure immortal source power. You're the only one in the myriad worlds," Long Chen said with a smile. This was her good fortune, and it was left to her by deity Emperor Ling Su. Perhaps she was destined to receive such things since she was young. Of course, that was not necessarily the case. If she had not met Long Chen and allowed him to protect her until now, allowing her to achieve strength equivalent to that of a spirit emperor, perhaps she would not have been able to come to this place. Besides the god blood, venerable spirit's inheritance was also important. She didn't know how strong she could be. In terms of realm, she was at the same level as Long Chen. Although her fighting capacity wasn't as good as Long Chen's, her mortal sword essence, pure immortal dual swords, and pure immortal source power could create some miraculous effects. Especially the pure immortal source power, it was the purest purifying power in the myriad worlds. When she opened her eyes, she was already in front of the only thing in the Plain Palace. This was the pool where she absorbed the pure immortal source power. Around the pool, there were 9 stone lions. They had turned into rocks, as if they had been dead for thousands of years. There was no sign of life at all. Use your pure immortal origin power to awaken them. The plain sword transformed into a colorful butterfly that fluttered in front of Lingxi, bringing her the most beautiful embellishment. Meanwhile, the spiritual sword's butterfly stuck to Lingxi's body all the time. She liked the pure immortal source energy in Lingxi's body. Back then, she and the Lingxi sword found Lingxi after discovering her bloodline. Lingxi nodded. She floated gently in front of one of the stone lions and looked at it. Her slender hand quietly landed on the forehead of the stone lion. The snow-white pure immortal source energy had already fused with her and was under her control. Now, it had become pure immortal source energy that belonged to Lingxi. This was different from Divine Emperor Ling Su's pure immortal source energy. Sure enough, the pure immortal source power seeped into the body of the stone lion. The stone lion started to shine, especially its eyes. Lingxi could feel the birth of life in its body. She couldn't help but reveal a sweet smile. It's alive. Long Chen cultivated the Tao of life, so he was very clear about this. Under the ignition of the pure immortal source energy, the pure immortal source power actually gave birth to life from a lifeless rock. The pure immortal source power wasn't a demonic beast, nor was it a starry sky beast. It was a life that was born along with the pure immortal source power. Just like Dream Spirit, she was also a magical life in the myriad worlds. In the myriad worlds, there were many such life forms. When the stone lion in front of Lingxi was awakening, it actually shrunk until its height was less than Lingxi's calf. When the light dissipated, the lion that appeared in front of Lingxi changed from a stone lion to a jade lion. It also changed from a mighty male lion to a newly born lion cub. At this moment, the cub was like a little kitten, snow white, without any impurities. It looked at Lingxi with its watery, snow-white eyes and made squeaking sounds. It ran to Lingxi's feet and stuck out its pink tongue to lick Lingxi's dress. Although it was a cub, its face was full of smiles and it fell down from time to time. It looked charmingly naive. Any girl would probably like such a cute little beast. Of course, Lingxi was the same. So beautiful. Chen. Pleasantly surprised, she placed the tiny primitive lion on her palm. That primitive lion seemed to be afraid of falling as it trembled, and its appearance was extremely amusing. However, when it saw Lingxi's absolutely beautiful face, it forgot about its height, and once again narrowed its eyes as it chuckled mischievously, stretching out its pink paws and squeaking. Lingxi was about to become a mother, and her motherly instincts overflowed. Seeing this lion cub, she was overjoyed. She knew that the other stone lions would definitely become little plain lions because of it, so she didn't stop. She let the other 8 mighty lions start to change. Finally, 9 kitten-like lion cubs gathered together and ran around Lingxi. Lingxi was so happy that she almost forgot what she was here for. They are very magical. When Long Yan is born, we can let them grow together. How good would that be? She will definitely like it. Lingxi's face was full of surprise. Yes, they can also protect her. Of course, Long Chen wouldn't forget this beautiful moment. He wouldn't let anyone destroy this beautiful moment, not even Biyao. But at this time, it wasn't Biyao who destroyed the peace of the slaughter city. Long Chen stood up from his meditative state and said to Lingxi, "Don't be in a hurry to go to the next place. Take some time to digest. The deity king of hell and many other deities have come. I'm afraid it's about the Yellow Spring Divine Lord. You must be careful," Lingxi warned him in a soft voice. "Don't worry." Biyao noticed it too. She had been watching Long Chen for about a month. Now, someone had disturbed the peace. Although she had expected it, she still didn't like it. What? She walked in front of the God Kings and arrived before the God Kings. At this time, there were many God spirits following behind the God Kings of Hell. There were more than 30 God Kings. Including the God Kings, there were more than 70 God Kings. The God King of Hell stood in front of them, and there were a few ultimate divine monarchs around him. The gods appeared again, and all living beings were alarmed. Some were excited, and some were afraid. Long Chen stood behind Biyao. Mo Xiaolang and Soi Yan were still in the slaughter city. They didn't come up, but they were also paying attention to what was happening here. As the saying went, what should come would come. The God King of Hell bowed to Biyao first, then he said in a cold voice, "Princess, I knew you were here, so I didn't come to disturb you. But it has been a month, and we still haven't found an answer. So, I came to find Long Chen today. Just give us some time." Biyao waved her hand and said, "What can happen? Isn't it very peaceful? Don't come to the 5 dragon cities anymore." Since the God King of Hell was here, he wouldn't be sent away just like that. His gaze went past Biyao and landed on Long Chen. He said, "Yellow Spring Divine Monarch has gone missing. We've searched the entire dragon sacrificial continent and even the surrounding areas very far away, but we couldn't find him. It's impossible for him to escape from my sight. The only possibility is that he might have been secretly killed or sealed somewhere. You had a conflict with Divine Lord Netherworld before, and you are also someone with such power. I have now ruled out the possibility of other deities. Now, let me ask you, do you have anything to do with Divine Lord Netherworld's disappearance?" Long Chen said, "Ever since I came back from the great calamity of gods and demons, I haven't left the 5 dragon cities at all. Although I can defeat Yellow Spring, I don't have the ability to kill him silently under the God King's nose. Moreover, the godly rules are very strict. There's no need for me to take such a risk for someone I'm not related to, right? Speaking up to this point, Long Chen's voice turned cold. He said angrily, God King. I know, it must be the otherworldly God King who attacked Lingxi. He was the only one who could make Divine Lord Netherworld disappear without a trace. Didn't he do the same last time? I think we must catch him as soon as possible. Otherwise, more gods will die in his hands in the future. Everyone became noisy when they heard this. Long Chen's words made sense. After all, the only reasonable explanation for Lingxi's death was the otherworldly God King. He appeared and disappeared mysteriously, causing Yellow Spring to disappear. When Long Chen said this, Biyao was indeed helping him. She said firmly, if you have time, you might as well chase after that otherworldly God King. What's the point of wasting it here? He hasn't recovered from his grief yet, and you still suspect him? Act quickly. I don't want us ancient gods to be assassinated one by one. God King of Hell, this is your responsibility. God King of Hell narrowed his eyes and pondered. Of course, he knew what happened to Yellow Spring. However, with Biyao here, he held back for a month and pretended to search for a long time. But Biyao had no intention of leaving. Divine Lord Netherworld had been with him for so many years. Even if he had not made any contributions, he had put in a lot of effort. Chapter 2684. Yellow Spring's Heavenly Diagram. Long Chen did not understand. It had already taken Soyan as its master, so why would it take such a risk and tell the God King of Hell about this? After he finished speaking, the surroundings fell silent. The Yellow Spring's Heavenly Diagram was the Divine Lord of Yellow Spring's creation artifact. It had appeared here and told the gods why the Divine Lord of Yellow Springs had disappeared. Su Yan and Nemo Shaolang were also shocked. What the Netherworld Heavenly Diagram was doing now was a bit against common sense. Biyao clearly knew the situation, but she didn't remind Long Chen. Perhaps she didn't think of this either. Now, no matter how he tried to cover it up, the deceased's creation artifact had personally come out to testify. There was no use in quibbling. The gods were not fools. After saying that, the Yellow Spring's Heavenly Diagram angrily resisted Soyan and laughed. You brats, do you think you can deal with me like this? I have been friends with old devil Huang Quan for tens of thousands of years. Although old devil Huang Quan's character is not good, and he has done many evil deeds, he has taken good care of me. You want me to submit to you after taking his life? Dream on. This was an oversight on the part of Long Chen and the others. To be honest, he hadn't seen many fortune artifacts, such as the peerless dragon slaughtering Saber's three-legged black crow. After meeting Long Chen and witnessing Long Chen's strength and potential, he immediately surrendered and vowed to follow him. Therefore, he subconsciously thought that all fortune artifacts were like that. He did not expect that the Yellow Spring's Heavenly Diagram would first recognize Soyan as its master, and now it was counterattacking. It was already under Soyan's control, so it naturally could not escape. However, if it did not cooperate, it would be difficult for Soyan to use its power. God King of Hell, quickly follow the rules and take revenge for the Divine Lord of Yellow Springs. Kill these little fellows and save me. I am willing to follow you from now on. No matter who you give me to, I am willing. This is a favor I owe him. The Yellow Springs Heavenly Diagram was not afraid of Long Chen at all, as it said arrogantly. He had been waiting for so long that the God King of Hell had finally arrived with the other gods. Now, dozens of deities had surrounded Long Chen and the Slaughter Dragon City in silence. When they learned that Divine Lord Netherworld had been killed by Long Chen, they could no longer hold back. They had long been dissatisfied with Long Chen. From the death of Thunder God from the ninth heaven, to the matter of Biyao, to his killing of Divine Lord Netherworld. The gods were one. Although they had their own conflicts, they had been on the same team for tens of millions of years and had taken care of each other. Now that Divine Lord Netherworld had been killed, they could not just sit back and watch. Or even, rage. They had also tolerated Long Chen for a long time. Watching Long Chen rise to power was indescribably uncomfortable. The gods were most worried that the God King of Hell would not deal with Long Chen this time. Every time, it was the God King of Hell who protected Long Chen. But this time, it was Long Chen who had killed the #1 Divine Lord under him. Although old geezer Netherworld was not much, he was still one of us. I didn't expect him to be killed just like that. Hee hee. We haven't lost any brothers for tens of millions of years, but after returning to the dragon sacrificial continent, we lost Thunder God from the 9th heaven and Divine Lord Netherworld one after another. This is really unfair. If we don't deal with it this time, the rules will really be useless. In the past, no one dared to offend us when there was a divine emperor leading us. Now that we've come to a new place, the one we can't control the most is actually a little brat. The gods did not pressure him loudly. Instead, they muttered softly so that the God King of Hell could hear them. At this moment, none of them were on Long Chen's side. They were muttering because they were exerting pressure on the God King of Hell. The God King of Hell looked calm. In fact, he obviously knew, but he had no evidence. Now that the evidence had suddenly appeared, he could not help but smile faintly and ask, "Long Chen, aren't you going to explain?" Long Chen thought about it and decided to forget it. Even if he said that it was Divine Lord Netherworld who had assassinated 2 important people in his life, it would remind him of the incident with Lingxi, causing him to be unable to conceal his anger and directly kill Divine Lord Netherworld. However, killing gods was a fact. The gods were so afraid of him that they did not care about the outcome. Therefore, he said, "Many things are not what I wanted, but since it has already happened and everyone knows about it, the God King has the final say on how to deal with it." Insolence. Audacious to the extreme. Disregarding the rules. Looking down on the godly rules was the same as looking down on the Emperor God. Since you are one of the gods of our sacrifice, you must accept the punishment of our rules. At the level of Divine Lord Netherworld, even the ultimate realm God King has no right to kill him. The gods immediately cursed. They were boiling with anger and surrounded Long Chen. Under their anger, even the surrounding land and Massacre Dragon City began to distort. Everyone felt very uncomfortable. Long Chen did not say anything else and directly flew into the starry sky. Behind him, Mo Xiaolang and Sui Yan also followed. The Yellow Springs Heavenly Diagram laughed and said, "Little bastard, now you know regret. I endured until now just to see this expression on your face." Long Chen turned his head to look at it and said, "I've said it before. If you cause trouble, you'll end up miserable." Now, she was willing to die. In that case, even if he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Long Chen, it would be impossible. Moreover, befriending Biyao and the Order Grade treasure were both very important to him. With Biyao's threat, he also had a way out of this embarrassing situation, and the other gods would not criticize him. He seized this opportunity and said, "Princess, of course we would not dare to threaten your life, but the godly rules are made by the Divine King, and we exercise the authority of the Divine King. We can't be reckless." Then it's decided. Since I, the Hell God King, can't make a decision, I can only imprison Long Chen in the Hell God City. When the Divine Emperor returns, he will deal with him. What do you think? Although the gods were angry, they knew they couldn't deal with this unruly Divine Emperor Princess. For a moment, the gods could only sigh angrily. "If you want to imprison him, just imprison me and him together. That way, I won't have to look at you all every day." "It's disgusting," Biyao said. "Princess, you are precious. How can I imprison you?" The Hell God King quickly said. "You won't listen to me?" Biyao's voice was cold. The Hell God King thought that she must want to use this opportunity to spend time with Long Chen. He was speechless and could only agree. For Long Chen, this was probably the best outcome after this accident. In fact, he also needed a quiet environment. After all, Lingxi hadn't returned yet. He was just worried about the 5 dragon cities, Mo Xiaolang, Sui Yan, and Kitten after he left. Big brother, no matter what happens, I will tell you immediately. If you can leave the Hell God City, it shouldn't take long, Mo Xiaolang said. Biyao said, don't worry. I will give the order. No one will dare to touch your people or your 5 dragon cities. But since you killed the divine emperor, you can only be imprisoned by the Hell God King for a while. Looking at her excited face, it was obvious that she was looking forward to having something to do with him in a private space. He didn't expect that one day, he would become a woman's prey. Dragon Blood God of War is free. Welcome to 17K. Mobile users only need to download a 17K novel app. It will be updated punctually every day. If you can't, follow Lunatic's WeChat account, Feng Qingyang. You can also see it. Chapter 2685. Long Chen still didn't know why the God King of Hell wanted to kill Lingxi. If they were imprisoned in Hell City, what would they do if the God King of Hell came again? He was a terrifying existence with a great reputation in the myriad worlds, but this decision was the last step the God King of Hell could take. Though Soi Eon devoured Netherworld Monarch in the end, Long Chen would definitely bear the responsibility. Plus, he was the one who dealt with Netherworld Monarch himself. They'll be fine, just trust me this once. If something happens to them, I'll bury everyone with them. Biyao couldn't wait to be alone with Long Chen, so there was no need to worry. What about the Yellow Springs Heavenly Diagram? Long Chen believed that she had the ability to do so, but since the Yellow Springs Heavenly Diagram had brought him such great danger, he had to get rid of this guy before entering the Hell God City. Otherwise, who knew if there would be any more trouble? Biyao immediately said to the other deities, listen up, no one is allowed to touch this diagram. Let its owner deal with this fellow who can't keep his mouth shut. If I find out that anyone dares to steal the diagram, there's only one outcome for them, death. The diagram was shocked. He didn't expect the God King to be so strict. His revenge on Netherworld Monarch had resulted in such a result. Not only would he not fall into the hands of the God King of Hell, but Long Chen wouldn't be punished for the time being either. His future was even more uncertain. In the end, he was the one who suffered a loss. This scared him silly. He knew that Biyao liked Long Chen, but he didn't know it was to this extent. Soi Eon could control him, but as she grew, the diagram would eventually yield. Plus, there was Mo Xiaolang by her side. From beginning to end, Biyao was the one giving orders. The God King of Hell watched silently. Though he lost a general, he couldn't do anything to Biyao, especially when she threatened him with death. Plus, it involved his deal with Biyao. Alright, the two of you, follow me to the Hell God City. The God King of Hell said solemnly. The gods retreated angrily. The matter was already settled. Even though they knew that Divine Lord Netherworld was killed by Long Chen, with Biyao protecting Long Chen with all her might, godly rules were useless. While I'm in the Hell God City, protect the places he's protecting and the people he's protecting. You'll regret it if any one of them dies. Biyao glared at the God King of Hell and threatened him after arriving next to him. Don't worry, princess. Under my supervision, nothing will happen to the eternal God domain. Of course, the same goes for the dragon sacrificial continent. In reality, they had a deeper level of communication. Of course, that was about the order grade treasure, as well as the relationship between the two. The God King of Hell had never thought that he would inadvertently create a space for Biyao. He could only accept this loss. Perhaps if Biyao succeeded in helping him this time, he would be happy, and he would benefit greatly in the future. After all, her achievements would definitely not be as simple as a Sir God. In other words, there would be no problem with Mo Xiaolang and the others. Of course, Long Chen did not know about the deal between them. He tried his best not to look at the God King of Hell differently. This was the person he wanted to kill the most at the moment, his enemy. He would never forget the moment when Lingxi was on the verge of death. Bear with it a little longer. He warned himself that that moment was not far away. Although the gods were furious, they could only return to their respective god cities and let this matter pass. After killing Divine Lord Netherworld, Long Chen was considered to have moved to another place. It was uncertain whether he would really be punished in the future. If Di Jun liked Long Chen, there would be no chance of revenge. No, I can't take this lying down. The famous Divine Lord Netherworld actually died at the hands of this native. If I don't take revenge, I really can't live on. I have to at least kill a few Dragon Emperor to vent my anger. Among the gods, there were indeed gods who could not bear it. They respected Biyao and could not do anything about her actions, but they could still teach Long Chen a lesson. However, at this time, the God King of Hell coldly told the gods, from today onwards, no gods are allowed to approach the 5 major dragon cities, nor are they allowed to attack the people here. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. As for Long Chen, when the Divine Emperor returns, he will naturally be judged. You don't have to worry. The gods could only be submissive. No matter how much anger they had, they could only swallow it. Following the God King of Hell and a few god generals, Long Chen and Biyao soon arrived at the divine city of Hell. To them, the dragon god domain was really too small. Biyao stuck to Long Chen the whole way, her face brimming with a blissful smile. She hid behind Long Chen like a little bird, completely losing the domineering aura she had when she was the Divine Emperor Princess. This peerless beauty had become the girl next door. Seeing this scene, the God King of Hell could only sigh in amazement. He glanced at Long Chen and found that this youth was very calm. Today, the Yellow Springs heavenly diagram suddenly rebelled, which is indeed very disadvantageous for him. If it wasn't for Biyao, I would have to kill him on the spot, but he is not nervous at all. Now, he knows that Biyao will protect him, but looking at his expression, he doesn't have a good impression of the princess. Then, when they enter the divine city of Hell and are sealed by me, what progress will there be? He brought Long Chen and Biyao into the divine city of Hell. There were many descendants of the God King of Hell in the divine city of Hell. Now, there were many experts in the entire divine city of Hell, almost as many as the devouring dragon city. This was personally created by the God King of Hell. In the depths of the divine city of Hell, there is a secret room that is sealed by my God King rules. Without my permission, although your strength is not bad, if you want to rush out, it is completely impossible. Of course, the one sealed is Long Chen. Princess, you can choose not to go in. You did nothing wrong, the God King of Hell said in front of them. Biyao hurriedly said, No, I'm afraid he will be lonely in there. I want to go in and accompany him. If you decide to go in, then it will be troublesome to come out. I won't let you go in and out just because you want to. After I go in, I won't come out, Biyao said confidently. Now, her gaze constantly revolved around Long Chen. Anyone could see that intimate and ambiguous gaze. She was becoming more and more infatuated with Long Chen. This kind of infatuation was something that even the God King of Hell couldn't understand. He was helpless, he could only bring Long Chen and Biyao into this black secret room. Princess, I will take my leave first. The God King of Hell didn't say anything more. He sealed the secret room, and the surroundings instantly became pitch black. In this small space, it was completely silent. The slightest movement of the other party couldn't be hidden from his senses. As expected, there was the existence of the God King of Hell's laws in the surroundings. The divine city of Hell was only a primordial grade destiny grade divine artifact. But because of the laws that sealed this secret room, the two of them probably wouldn't be able to destroy this place even if they used all their strength. To Long Chen, it was just a change of location to cultivate. His current cultivation was extremely important. The most important direction was that he was advancing towards the great circle of the Taiji God realm. His cultivation speed was still very fast, much faster than ordinary deities. After all, he had trillions of divine palaces, and trillions of living beings were providing him with the wishes of all living beings. That was the source of his growth. Even if he didn't move, his growth speed would surpass Diyao's. To deities, it would take millions of years for them to grow by one level. Of course, if they truly went into closed-door cultivation, to gods and devils, 10,000 years was actually about the same as 1 year. Long Chen was very familiar with this. He thanked Biyao and sat down in a corner, absorbing and transforming the wishes of countless living beings. Hey, I saved you. Aren't you going to chat with me? Biyao probably knew that she couldn't force herself on Long Chen, so even her complaints were very gentle. Indeed, in this narrow secret room, there was a great beauty like her constantly seducing him. The atmosphere was also very charming. Hence, the only way for Long Chen to avoid this kind of ambiguous atmosphere was to cultivate. Even though he was indeed very grateful to Biyao for helping him resolve this crisis. Now that the two of them were in this secret room, Long Chen had a headache. But the other party had practically saved his life, so he still had to greet her. But he still maintained a distance. However, Biyao was very easily satisfied. After casually saying a few more words, she said, "Continue cultivating. The stronger you become, the better. I'll just obediently watch over you." As she spoke, she stayed by the side, her light golden eyes wide open, looking at Long Chen lovingly. Her entire body was curvaceous, and her face was extremely beautiful. All of this was sending a signal to Long Chen. A dignified divine emperor princess had become like this for him. Even Long Chen couldn't help but sigh in amazement. He focused and let Biyao do as she pleased. Then, in this quiet environment, he silently accumulated power. He would only become stronger and stronger, surpassing the imaginations of all deities. I have to go to the third place. In the Element Palace, Lingxi used her element immortal source power to raise 9 charmingly naive little element lions. The little lions seemed to treat her as their mother, sticking to her feet all the time, squeaking, rolling around, and playing around. They were very cute. Lingxi now placed them in the divine kingdom and prepared to go forward. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Long Chen asked. Lingxi said grumpily, "You're a man and a woman alone in a room. If I don't go back, I don't know what trouble Biyao will bring you." Long Chen was a bit embarrassed. He didn't expect her to be jealous. Seeing that he didn't dare to speak, Lingxi smiled in satisfaction and said, "Chen, I'm just a bit uneasy. Since Yellow Springs is a subordinate of the God King of Hell, I have a feeling that he won't let this go so easily. He's very powerful, a God King. Based on what we've discovered so far, I'm worried that you'll have a big impulse with him in advance. He represents the peak of the deities, and I want to help you deal with him. He's our common enemy, right?" Long Chen was constantly reminded of that scene. He was almost scared out of his wits. It had to be said that the reason he had been fighting so hard recently was actually for revenge. He naturally would not forget this hatred. No matter what reason the divine king of hell had for wanting to kill Lingxi, it was unforgivable. And among the other deities, some of them didn't want him to die. Chapter 2686. When would the gods' sovereigns return? Long Chen knew that the time was definitely close. Not only the god sovereigns, but there were also several god kings. Among them, there were even ultimate realm god kings, existences comparable to Demon Wa at her peak. The curse realm protectors were so powerful, but they were only equivalent to perfection realm god kings. If these supreme deities were to return, the curse realm might even be conquered. In the future, if he wanted to stand firm among the deities on this dragon-sacrificial continent, he needed to be strong. Strength was the right to speak. Long Chen didn't know why the deities returned. He had a feeling that it wasn't as simple as them wanting to rebuild this world. Since he didn't know the reason, he needed strength as a guarantee. Not only would he be able to protect himself, but he would also be able to protect all living beings. Especially after the Trillion Shrine, he was the deity that all living beings believed in. This was something that the other deities didn't have. Lingxi was already heading towards the third location. The Sky Supreme Sword Ocean is the Sword Law, and the Plain Palace is the Plain Immortal Origin Body of the Plain Law. God Emperor Ling Su possesses the sword, spirit, and plain Daos. That should be the third and final location. It should be related to spirit. This was Long Chen's conjecture. What exactly happened to this mysterious God Emperor Ling Su in the dragon sacrificial continent? Perhaps, she would tell Lingxi. Lingxi passed through the plain palace and arrived at the opposite side of the plain palace. A snow-white door appeared, and behind the door was a long corridor. After the long corridor, there was another palace that looked exactly the same as the plain palace. Previously, when she became a deity, Lingxi had already seen this place. After passing through the corridor and arriving here, she discovered that the name of this place was Spirit Palace. Spirit Palace, Plain Palace. This place was closely related to the spirit law. Celestial Emperor Ling Su's understanding of the rules of sword was recorded in Celestial Ling Su's Sword Tao. The rules of Su are completely reliant on the Su immortal source body, while the rules of spirit are collectively known as the Heavenly Rule Spirit Arts. The Heavenly Rule Spirit Arts is the origin of all the spiritual arts in the Ling Su galaxy. All the spiritual arts originated from the Heavenly Rule Spirit Arts. There aren't many spiritual arts in the Heavenly Rule Spirit Arts, but each of them is a supreme great Tao of spiritual arts. Each of them has produced millions of spiritual arts. This is the origin of the Ling Su galaxy. Therefore, the Heavenly Rule Spirit Arts is actually the foundation of Celestial Emperor Ling Su. Su Jian spoke clearly and logically. That's great, little Su. The 9-hell illusionary butterfly in the spirit sword said loudly. For example, the Immortal Lord Realm techniques and the spiritual techniques of the Spirit Reverend Legacy. Are they all derived from heavenly rules and spiritual techniques? Lingxi asked. That's right. Heavenly Rule Spirit Arts are the foundation of everything, and also Celestial Emperor Ling Su's strongest attack. Lingxi stepped into the Spirit Palace curiously. The Spirit Palace was vast and empty. There was no mist, and one could see the end of it. However, it was different from the pure colors of the plain palace. The interior of the Spirit Palace was filled with a myriad of colors. The dazzling light made one feel as though they were walking into a rainbow. So beautiful. If the Spirit Palace was a world, then this would be a colorful world. It was so beautiful that even Long Chen was amazed. Do you see it? Su Jian was very excited. Lingxi looked around and saw a total of 18 statues around the Spirit Palace. Each statue was of a different color, and each statue was of the same god. It was a woman Lingxi had seen before. That's right, she looked exactly the same as the previous palace master of Sword Spirit Imperial Palace, Ling Su. However, she was much more perfect than Lingxi. She had a purity that no one could bear to desecrate. Just like Lingxi at this moment, she was perfect to the extreme. She was like a white lotus at the peak of a snowy mountain, standing proudly in the wind and frost. 18 idols. Perhaps they represented the 18 types of heavenly rule spiritual techniques. After arriving here, the eyes of the 18 statues lit up and looked at her. This made Lingxi's scalp go numb. However, she waited for a long time, but no one spoke to her. Celestial Emperor Ling Su was still nowhere to be seen. The statue looking at her must have been her hallucination. At this time, she saw the colors above her head fusing and condensing into a line of words before her eyes. That was, "You can leave this place after successfully cultivating a heavenly rule spirit technique." This was similar to the divine Ling Su sword principle. The divine Ling Su sword principle required one to comprehend the mortal sword will, while the Spirit Palace required her to cultivate a heavenly rule spirit technique. Although it was only one, it was one of the origins of the spiritual techniques in the divine Ling Su sword principle. It extended thousands of great Daos, and was obviously more difficult than the mortal sword will of the divine Ling Su sword principle. However, for the sake of Long Chen, for the sake of her child, Lingxi was full of confidence. She almost closed her eyes and chose one of the statues. When she opened her eyes, she saw that it was an orange statue. "Chen, I might have to cultivate for a long time. Even I am not sure how long. But as long as I succeed, I should be able to return to your side. Lingxi said softly. Her eyes were very bright, and one could feel the strength within her. Let's go together. Long Chen said with a smile. He wanted to let Lingxi know that she was not the only one working hard. He was also working hard. Even Xiao Lang and Sui Yan were working hard for their future position and destiny in the dragon sacrificial continent. Of course, forget about Kitten. She stretched out her hand and touched the orange statue. In the blink of an eye, her entire body had turned orange. Whether it was her skin, eyes, or long hair, everything was the same. But even so, she still looked so beautiful and soul-stirring. She seemed to be immersed in a world and no longer communicated with Long Chen. Long Chen did not disturb her either. This was her last stop. Although the name, Heavenly Rule Spirit Technique, sounded very difficult, Lingxi had her own will. Although it was different from Long Chen's, it was all for the sake of protection. Therefore, Long Chen firmly believed that she could succeed. Just like how she firmly believed that Long Chen would not love Biyao. In this quiet secret room, Biyao was silently watching Long Chen from start to finish. Her eyes were shining, and it was hard to imagine what she was thinking. In her eyes, Long Chen could see a deeper and deeper love, making him feel baffled. 1 month passed, 2 months passed. Other than the occasional words, there was almost no other communication. But Biyao was still enjoying it. She was like a little woman in love, staring at her lover every day. She was as sweet as she could be. She did not look like a divine emperor princess at all. With her status, there were countless people who wanted her, but she did not resist Long Chen at all. The meaning in her eyes was probably that as long as Long Chen wanted to, he could do whatever he wanted to her. Long Chen couldn't bear it anymore. He looked at Biyao and said, "Aren't you bored? With your personality, you shouldn't be used to being imprisoned here with me. Why don't you leave?" "No, I want to be with you. Even if you don't talk to me, I am still very happy. I like you very much. When your mood improves, you will talk to me more." She blinked her eyes innocently. She had helped him so many times, and he had taken advantage of her in the dream spirit realm. Now that he thought about it, he was indeed very shameless. Biyao was very affectionate and touching, but Long Chen had met her at the wrong time. Regardless of whether Lingxi was dead or not, he would not suddenly start with another woman like this, therefore, he felt that he had to say something. He said, "It's not like that. I am not interested in the matters between men and women. Moreover, Princess is the daughter of the Divine Emperor. I am not worthy of her. As for the matter of Dream Spirit Realm, if Princess wants any compensation, I will do my best to do it." Hearing this, Biyao was not angry. She smiled and shook her head, saying, "Don't worry, I won't rush you. I just want to stay with you like this. Maybe you won't notice me in 1 or 2 years, but there is still a long time in the future. We have an endless life, and one day, you will forget about her and see my sincerity towards you. There is no such thing as being worthy of love. As for the matter of Dream Spirit Realm, I have already forgotten about it, and I will not bring it up with you in the future." When it came to this aspect, Long Chen could not help her. Perhaps women were like this. Even when they knew nothing, they would still speak with gusto. He could not say heartless words. After all, she had helped him many times, and he had almost done something wrong to her. It was the matter of Dream Spirit Realm that had changed her and made her infatuated with him. Let's wait for Lingxi to come back first. There is no point in reasoning with her now. Long Chen thought for a while and could not be bothered with her anymore. If she wanted to look, then let her look. Long Chen did not believe that with her personality, she would look at him for another year. A year passed. The 5 dragon cities and Mo Xiaolang's group were all fine. The gods were also very peaceful. There were more and more experts in the draconic right continent, and things were getting better and better. But Biyao really looked at him silently for a year. That blissful, sweet, and shy gaze made Longchen feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. It was hard to imagine that she was the princess of the divine emperor. Moreover, in terms of appearance and charm, she was almost at the peak of the myriad worlds. Such a beauty was unparalleled, and it was hard to lose weight. If it was not for the fact that having sex with her would bring about great trouble, Longchen would not be so conflicted. In this 1 year, Lingxi was still standing face to face with the statue of a god. She was still cultivating that heavenly rule spirit art. Looking at her current state, it would probably take some time before she could succeed. Longchen sighed deeply. He thought that Dia would continue like this. Unexpectedly, she finally exploded. At a certain moment, she suddenly stood up and walked toward Longchen. At this moment, her expression was very cold. Without saying anything, she slapped Longchen's head. Even without using the power of rules, with her godly strength, she could break a mountain. This was very sudden. Longchen blocked her and pressed down on her palm. His eyes were burning as he asked, "What's wrong with you?" Chapter 2687. Because of Biyao's sudden attack, he had used quite a bit of force. With a cracking sound, Biyao's wrist was almost broken by him. But after that, Biyao didn't move, nor did she reply. The secret room suddenly fell silent. The beauty in front of him had skin whiter than snow, and every movement she made was a peerless beauty. But she was staring at Longchen in a daze, and there were tears in her eyes. Anyone would be nervous when they saw those sparkling tears. "I'm sorry." Longchen hastily used the flame of his life to hold her wrist and help her recover. Of course, this was only for a short period of time. Biyao was heartbroken. She stared at Longchen with tears in her eyes. "It's been a year, and you haven't changed at all. Haven't you forgotten her? Haven't you walked out of your so-called pain?" Longchen knew that with her princess temperament, she wouldn't be able to bear it if he let her stare at him for a year. Now that she was emotional, it was also troublesome. It was just that this divine emperor princess wasn't someone to be trifled with, and she seemed to treat him sincerely. She had obediently waited for a year, looking at him like this, which could be considered as proof of her determination. He said, "Princess, there are some things that are hard to explain to you. But now, I can't drag things out with you any longer. To tell you the truth, I can't fall in love with you. My only goal now is revenge. But even if I succeed, it will be difficult for me to be with you. It's not that you're not good, it's just that after what happened to Lingxi, I've confirmed my own thoughts. In this life, I will never find another woman, so..." After hearing this, Biyao found it even harder to accept. She had been gentle for a year, but now Longchen could see the flames of anger in her eyes. She was clearly on the verge of breaking down. Thinking about it carefully, Longchen couldn't feel at ease with this divine emperor's daughter fawning over him, and she had done so much for him. But in order to prevent her from sinking deeper and deeper, he could only make a prompt decision. After all, this was a place where the two of them were, and it could also be considered protecting her face. At this moment, her fiery eyes stared at Longchen, tears streaming down her face. She choked with sobs. "Is that so? I've said it before, I can wait for you, I can move you, and I can make you change your mind. Is that not enough? You're the first person I've ever liked, so I'll chase after the person I like. Haven't I proven it to you in the past year? I don't need you to answer me. We still have a long future ahead of us, but you have to treat me better, can't you?" It had been a year. With her personality, this was indeed a test. Making Longchen stare blankly at Lingxi for a whole year was something he probably couldn't do. Although it was very pitiful to see her crying helplessly, Longchen now deeply understood this kind of thing. If he did not make a decision, he would only end up in a mess. He supported Biyao and solemnly said, "I can't. I already have someone I love. Even if he's not here, this kind of love won't cool over time, and it won't be transferred to someone else. You don't understand how much life and death we've gone through to get to this day. Princess, I am very grateful to you, but I also feel very guilty towards you. You can ask me to do anything, but in this aspect, I really can't do it. I hope you can understand me. Longchen very much hoped that she could understand. Sometimes, true love could be to fulfill one's wish. For example, Li Xuanji. She had very straightforwardly fulfilled his wish and left. Who knew what she would have to endure after leaving alone? But clearly, Biyao was different. The last two words, understand, made her angry. The anger that had been suppressed for a whole year erupted. If he did not love her, it would be her failure. But Long Chen was such a resolute person. Gratitude and love were not the same thing, and he knew very well the difference. Biyao was getting more and more out of control. She was furious, fiery, and as domineering as she had been in the past. Coupled with the anger she had suppressed for a year, it erupted at this moment, directly turning into a single sentence. Her entire body trembled, and golden flames burned. She looked at Longchen angrily and said word by word, I originally wanted to use a gentle method to succeed, to have a true relationship, but you forced me to take this path. Whatever happens next, don't blame me for being ruthless. You are the one who betrayed my love for you. You bastard. What do you mean? Longchen took a few steps back. He did not understand what Biyao was saying, but he understood that it seemed like Biyao wanted to do something to him. But of course, he could not guess what method she would use to make him fall in love with her. This kind of thing could not be forced, right? Longchen was only worried that she would be angry and lead the other gods to kill him. He did not expect her to have such a big reaction, thinking that they could still be friends in the future or something. What do you mean? Biyao laughed. It was a cold laugh. She was still crying, but it could not be seen. She also took a few steps back, facing Longchen and leaning against the wall of the secret room. At this time, her body began to change. Because in this narrow secret room, Longchen could not react in any other way. He could only loudly ask, what is going on with you? Don't be angry. If there is any problem, we can still discuss it. There's no chance, Biyao screamed at him, her voice very sharp. Since that was the case, although he did not know what this divine emperor princess wanted, he still put up his guard. He had already become a god, and had even gathered the wishes of the masses, forming a huge amount of primordial divine dragon tribulation origin power. He was almost close to the Great Circle realm. He was not very worried. After all, the only people he was afraid of were the two divine kings. But at this time, Biyao suddenly became very dangerous. In an instant, a strange change happened to her goddess body. Golden energy surged. This was the Great Emperor Yang essence, formed from the creation-level boundless god technique, the Celestial Emperor myriad levels fire technique. It was very masculine and domineering. However, that was not the most important thing. In front of her, there was a golden figure condensing in front of Longchen. This was a strange woman. She did not appear here in a physical form, and her appearance could not be seen clearly. But Longchen knew how terrifying she was. He almost immediately guessed that this was very likely Biyao's mysterious mother. All this time, he had been paying attention to Biyao's father, but he had forgotten about her mother. He did not expect that at this moment, Biyao would summon her mother. Moreover, this woman was very terrifying. As soon as she appeared, she sealed the secret room. It was very likely that even the divine kings of hell did not know what would happen inside. It would be even more difficult for Longchen to break out of here. However, he thought that it wasn't a big deal that he had rejected her. Although her mother had appeared, he could still explain a little more, so he hurriedly said, "May I ask if your excellency is the princess's mother, the mysterious emperor?" The woman's voice was as soft as water, very comfortable to listen to. She said, "Yes, that's right, it is me. You are really cruel. Yao has been so good to you, doing things that she has never done since she was young, pleasing you, accompanying you, but today, you have hurt her to such an extent. You have really done wrong." Even the other party's elder had appeared. Although this mother's voice was gentle and he could not hear that she was cursing, this was the divine emperor. As expected, Biyao could not be provoked. He hurriedly said, "Senior divine emperor. Perhaps you have heard what I said before. I really did not mean to hurt her, but there are some things that I really cannot change. I hope the divine emperor can understand." The woman giggled and said, "You are really interesting. You have occupied my daughter's body, but you still come up with so many excuses to not take responsibility. You even hurt her to this extent, and you still want me to understand you? Is there such a good thing in this world?" Today, Yao asked me to appear, which means that she has already decided. We have prepared this gift for a year, and finally decided to give it to you today. You will definitely be very surprised. Long Chen looked at Biyao, who was still angry and trembling. Her hands were clenched into fists, and there were tears in her eyes. "What gift?" Long Chen asked calmly. Even the divine emperor had appeared. At first, he did not think too much about it, but now it seemed that the odds were against him. The woman did not care at all about telling Long Chen about it. She carefully described it. "This thing is called the heaven incantation of indifference. This is one of my more powerful divine emperor rules. Although it has never succeeded, Yao only has one chance to use it, and she will pay a price that you cannot imagine, and will waste many treasures. So that you will fall in love with her, and from then on, your whole world will only have her." Fourth update, asking for monthly votes. Chapter 2688. Heaven Incantation of Indifference. This was a God-Emperor rule. A God-Emperor was the absolute beginning God realm, so this was the absolute beginning divine rule. There was a huge gap between the Tai Chi divine rule and the absolute beginning divine rule. This difference was similar to the difference in strength between a divine weapon and a God-Emperor. The strongest rule that Long Chen had dealt with so far should have been performed by the epic heavenly demon when he was in a very weak state. And Biyao and her mother's cooperation, after a year of preparation, was all for the sake of dealing with her. What exactly is the heaven incantation of indifference? Long Chen stared at Biyao coldly this time. He had a good impression of Biyao. After all, she had never harmed him and was very good to him. However, if she chose to do this, Long Chen would not forgive her. In the face of Long Chen's accusation, Biyao mustered up her courage, but she still said in a trembling voice, "It's very simple. If you are afflicted with the heaven curse of indifference, you will forget all the love in your heart, whether it is for Lingxi, for your younger siblings, for your mother, for the 5 great dragon cities, or even for the entire world. Everything will disappear, and you will forget everything. When he opens his eyes, the first person he sees is me, and I will receive all of your love, not just for Lingxi, but for everyone. From then on, I will be your everything." Biyao persisted and finished her speech under Long Chen's incredulous gaze. "Many people know that my mother is a God-Emperor, but they don't know who she is. Her name is Emperor Wang Qing. Her heaven incantation of indifference can undoubtedly make you fall in love with me completely. Long Chen, don't blame me. I didn't want to do this at first. It's just that you forced me to do it. You made me despair. I'm not afraid of you blaming me, because when you wake up again, you will forget everything." She mustered up her courage and restored her personality, no longer afraid of Long Chen's gaze. After hearing all this, Long Chen had mixed feelings. Of course, he did not doubt the power of the heaven incantation of indifference. It was clearly a terrifying rule, no less than the epic heavenly demon's time rule. This Emperor Wang Qing's rule was probably love, which was also one of the rules of heaven and earth. A single rule was enough to make a person forget all their love and transfer it to another person. For all eternity, they would fight for that person. This was even more terrifying than a soul control. It could not even be recovered or disintegrated. Towards this emotionless sky mantra, he naturally feared it. If the other party could really succeed, then he would be even more terrifying than the God King of Hell. The most precious things to him were these emotions and these memories. If he forgot all of them and only loved Biyao, then what difference was there from being dead? You're not trying to make me forget, you're trying to kill me. Biyao, I originally believed that you might like me, but I was wrong. You've never had such thoughts. Your so-called giving is merely a means of plundering. You don't understand what is called feelings, that is not plundering. He still held on to the last hope of Biyao, thinking that she was just temporarily hot-headed, but he soon understood that Biyao would not change her mind. She said angrily, "It's too late to say anything now. Whether you plunder or sacrifice, I only want one result, and that is that you follow me wholeheartedly. That's enough. I don't need anything else. Even if you're a dead person, I don't care." This was the loudest roar she had ever let out. While she was furious, the woman in front of her was still smiling in satisfaction. At this moment, she returned to Biyao's body. After the two of them fused, although Biyao was still Biyao, she was no longer the same as before. She was ready to use the heavenly incantation of unlove. Long Chen completely understood. It turned out that everything before was not true. Biyao had never changed. Just like what she said now, as long as she had him, she would not care if he lived or died. Such a terrifying woman was not worthy of Long Chen's pity or sympathy, nor was she worthy of any guilt. In this way, Long Chen's thoughts were clear. He was not afraid of having another enemy, but he was afraid of having another woman that he felt guilty about. Since she had placed herself in the position of an enemy, there was no need to show mercy or have a headache. He was not good at talking about feelings, but he was good at fighting. Biyao did not show mercy. She had made her move, but the one controlling her body was not even herself, but the divine emperor of Wangqing. At this time, Biyao had already changed. She was calm, strange, and had a faint smile on her face, but it made Long Chen extremely fearful. This was the attack of the divine emperor of Wangqing. She began to chant an incantation, and her hands began to form seals at an incomparably fast speed. The heaven indifference mantra had already been activated, and she did not even think of letting Long Chen get close to her at all. During the formation of the heaven indifference mantra, the power of the rules that belonged to Wangqing had already protected her and suppressed Long Chen. Chaotic sea of time. Long Chen had to counterattack. This battle had come suddenly, but if the other party succeeded, it would be even more terrifying than death. He could not imagine how he would face Lingxi when she returned in the future. He could not imagine how he would face Mo Xiaolang and the others. At that time, he would simply become Biyao's puppet, and it would be even more painful than a puppet. Therefore, he had no reason to fail. However, the rules of time had actually blocked the rules of forgetfulness outside. For this moment, the God Emperor of Wangqing had prepared for a long time, and was even extremely familiar with Long Chen's level of power. In the next moment, the peerless dragon's Salure and time were broken. This was practically the strongest attack that Long Chen could unleash in this narrow space. If he could hit Biyao and cause her power to dissipate, then the other party would not be able to succeed, and he would be out of danger. One slash of the dragon. Bang! The power of time and space collided with the other party's protection, tearing apart a breath of air, but it did not truly harm Biyao. At this critical moment, Long Chen slashed out once again, and it was still time that was broken. Nervous, exciting. He had always known that Biyao was trouble, but he never thought that it would be to this extent. This was the peerless dragon Salure that Biyao had given him. Long Chen never thought that he would use it against her at this moment. Remember, I will never love you, I will only hate you. He was furious. The guilt and helplessness from before had all disappeared, leaving behind only anger and hatred. That slash was even more tyrannical, but in the end, he was still no match for the God Emperor of Wangqing, who had been staring at him for a long time. Although the God Emperor of Wangqing was not nearby, he was still so young. How could he fight against the God Emperor of Wangqing? The second slash had not succeeded yet, but the God Emperor of Wangqing's heavenly incantation of Wangqing was enough. Following the soft movement of her pink lips, Long Chen heard countless murmurs. This kind of sound could not disappear or be stopped no matter what. It was a type of stimulation from the incantation. Surrounded by the incantation, Long Chen was suppressed. This was a divine emperor who had made a lot of preparations before attacking him. The heavenly incantation of Wang Qing was extremely fast and violent. When Long Chen's peerless dragon Salyer landed on the ground, the light golden hair on Biyao's head suddenly expanded, instantly filling the entire secret room, surrounding Long Chen within. Her long golden hair wrapped around him like a snake, leaving him nowhere to escape. Biyao. Struggling was useless. No matter how unwilling he was, the heavenly incantation of Wang Qing still locked onto him. Other than the layers of illusions and pain brought about by the murmurs, those strands of hair directly pierced into his body, connecting with Long Chen's world tree. A golden illusory figure came from Biyao's body to Long Chen's body, following along his world tree, heading towards the heart of his rules. The appearance of the shadow was exactly the same as Biyao's. This was the heavenly incantation of Wang Qing that Biyao had used. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed into Long Chen's heart of rules and floated in front of his great void universe dragon primordial spirit. The heavenly incantation of Wang Qing was used on this primordial spirit. To use a dragon as a primordial spirit, it's unbelievable, and there are even 5 Dao seals. So complicated. It was unimaginable. What is this Dao seal? Biyao's illusory figure emitted the voice of God's sovereign Wang Qing. While she was puzzled, she unleashed the final law erosion on Long Chen. As long as she controlled the primordial spirit and transformed into Long Chen, she could make Long Chen forget everything. The rule of Wang Qing was also one of the very rare rules. She saw the dragon jade Dao seal that she did not understand. That was her primary target. The illusory figure turned into a golden mist, and the first thing it did was to tangle with the black seal. Long Chen was relieved, as this was simply courting death. Whether it was a divine emperor or something else, if they encountered the dragon jade Dao seal, the most mysterious and terrifying thing on Long Chen's body, they would all meet a tragic end. Sure enough, the touch of the heavenly incantation of Wang Qing encountered a vibration and a counterattack from the dragon jade Dao seal. A black light wave, in that instant, directly shattered Biyao's shadow, leaving behind only a moment of the heavenly incantation of Wang Qing's miserable scream. In an instant, only Long Chen's primordial spirit existed in the heart of the rules. The heavenly incantation of Wang Qing was defeated. The long golden hair in the secret chamber instantly disappeared. Biyao took 3 steps back and hit the wall of the secret chamber. Her whole person became very weak. Her eyes were bloodshot. She took out a golden hairpin in horror, but she did not expect that the hairpin would also turn into powder in her hand and completely disappear. Mother! Biyao's eyes immediately welled up with tears. She looked around in a daze, but no matter how she searched, she could no longer contact her mother. At this time, Long Chen recovered from the attack of the heavenly incantation of Wang Qing. In fact, he had already expected this. If it was an attack aimed at the primordial spirit, it would be fine if he did not provoke the dragon jade Dao seal. But if he did provoke the dragon jade Dao seal, no matter what it would be courting death. Finally, he escaped a calamity. And it was a very terrifying calamity. He looked at Biyao. At this time, Biyao was panicking and in pain. She searched everywhere and found that God Emperor Wang Qing could not be found at all. Only then did she look at Long Chen with hatred in her eyes. It's over. Long Chen also hated her because she brought him a rather terrifying possibility. Yes, it's over. Biyao suddenly cried and laughed. It was very simple to turn love into hate. Now, she was filled with deep hatred. Alright, I've returned everything I owe from the trip to Beijing. Madman will also post on WeChat every day and directly send it to everyone's mobile phones. Everyone can follow my WeChat, Feng Qingyang. Clicking on a free reading at the bottom left corner will also directly read it. She said coldly and rushed into the sky. At this moment, she didn't hide her strength at all. She was the daughter of 2 god emperors. Her talent was extraordinary. Now that she had undergone a huge change, her appearance immediately alarmed all the gods in the eternal god domain. Be it divine beasts or sorcerer gods, they all felt her presence. So strong. Her strength is close to that of a god king. Who is that? I don't know. It seems to be in the direction of the Hell God City. Let's hurry and take a look. The gods usually stayed in the eternal god domain. To them, the eternal god domain was very small. For a moment, almost all the gods and divine beasts were heading towards the Hell God City. They vaguely guessed that something big was about to happen. Of course, Mo Xiaolang and the rest also felt it. That was where Long Chen was, so they were naturally more nervous. For a moment, the dragon sacrificial dragon continent, which had been silent for a year, exploded once again. Maybe it was because of Long Chen every time, but this time, the focus once again fell on the Hell God City. Furthermore, everyone almost guessed that this matter was definitely related to Long Chen, or maybe it was also related to Biyao. Some gods already felt that the unbridled tyrannical strength was somewhat similar to Biyao's. Now, it was inevitable. Long Chen followed closely behind Biyao. Wherever she went, he would go. He roughly understood that Biyao wanted to have a decisive battle with him. However, at this time, the Hell God King appeared. He stood in front of Long Chen and Biyao. With a glance, he could see that Long Chen had clearly angered Biyao. In the past, only Biyao protected Long Chen. Now, the situation was reversed. Long Chen was someone that the Hell God King was a little afraid of. Now that he had an excuse, the Hell God King hurriedly said, "Princess, did he offend you? If he doesn't repent and thinks he's right, I'll take care of him on behalf of the princess. He's a person who deserves to die. Princess, you can deal with him however you want." From his words, it was obvious that he didn't put Long Chen in his eyes at all. Although Long Chen defeated the Yellow Springs Divine Lord, the gap between a Divine Lord and a Divine King was huge. At the level of a Divine King, one was the King of the Gods. A Divine King was comparable to 10,000 gods. Biyao coldly rebuked, "Scram, I'll do it myself." The Hell God King was stunned. It seemed that Biyao still didn't give him face. From this, it could be seen that since she wanted to do it herself, she must hate him to the extreme. This was also a good thing. After all, he was the one who killed Lingxi. Although he was confident that Long Chen wouldn't find out, he saw that Long Chen's cultivation was so rapid, so he was indeed a little worried. Passing him, Biyao rushed into the starry sky. This was the battlefield of the gods. If they fought on land, there would definitely be billions of casualties. Now, many gods had rushed over and looked at this scene in disbelief. A year ago, didn't Biyao love Long Chen to death? Why now, also, what was with Biyao's current strength and her head of white hair? When Long Chen passed by the Hell God King, the strange man mocked him, "Today might be your last day. Enjoy it." Long Chen glanced at him indifferently. He had already suppressed his anger, because he knew that day was not far away. In the blink of an eye, he and Biyao faced each other in the boundless starry sky. More and more gods appeared below. Many divine beasts also arrived, and they were discussing. At this moment, the Light God King appeared beside the Hell God King. He said in shock, "Why did the princess enter this state again? I remember that she only did it once or twice, and it was when she was very angry." Yes, it's not just anger. For example, in the curse world, she didn't become like this even on the verge of death. It should have something to do with her feelings. This is her third rule. It should have come from another god king. What kind of rule can turn a beauty into white hair? The Light God King murmured to himself. He didn't know the details of the relationship between Long Chen and Biyao, but now, they might decide the winner and the loser. Life or death. The gods gathered and couldn't help but clamor. Mo Xiaolang and Sui Yan were a little further away. When Long Chen saw them, he said, "Don't worry. Stay a little further away. Now that Biyao is no longer protecting me, the gods might attack us. Big brother, no matter what, we will fight you to the death." Mo Xiaolang said seriously before retreating. But he didn't go too far. On the other side, Biyao's white hair danced in the air. The atmosphere was tragic. She reached out and grabbed the 9-star Emperor sword. This fire-attributed sword was imbued with the rule power of Wang Qing. The flames weren't as hot as before, but they were more extreme and murderous. "If you can't block my sword, only death awaits you." Biyao attacked. As expected, the difference between the current her and the previous her was incomparably huge. It was somewhat unbelievable. Long Chen was not in a hurry to transform into a dragon. He held on to the peerless dragon Salyer with one hand, similar to Biyao. "The blade I gave you is truly laughable." The flames in Biyao's eyes burned even more fiercely. At this time, Biyao brandished the 9-star Emperor sword, already attacking. Graceful. One of Di Jun's 3 swords. Biyao didn't show the slightest bit of mercy. This time, her sword was directly aimed at killing Long Chen. The 9-star Emperor sword transformed into a graceful beam of light in the starry sky, slashing towards him. Eternal moment. As Long Chen struggled, his eyes became illusory, and with the power of the rules of time, he froze Biyao's sword. Sure enough, at this time, Biyao's great emperor Yang Yuan was extremely strong. Long Chen's eternal moment had only made it stay for a short period of time. Of course, it was enough. The peerless dragon Salyer finally waved, using the god-slaying technique from the peerless blade scripture. He used the sharp blade aura to break the forbidden dance. Long Chen once again regained his ability to move, but his light injuries still caused his strength to be greatly reduced, cutting Biyao's killing move again. Time storm. Within the domain, a tempest arose, and time was in chaos. Under this chaos, Biyao was finally forced to retreat, and even her long hair was torn apart by the power of time. The surrounding deities retreated even more, because a few divine weapons were accidentally hit by the power of time and were heavily injured. From afar, the entire starry sky seemed to be shaking in an invisible manner. It could be seen how powerful Long Chen was at this time. However, this was actually not his peak strength. Under the suppression of his emotional injuries, he could only display about half of his abilities. "I have to break the rules of this emotional injury in order to defeat her. But how can I break this rule?" Long Chen had a headache. From the point of view of the gods, even if Long Chen was not injured yet, he had already been suppressed by Biyao. 9 slaughter. Biyao once again attacked with her sword. Thousand Sun's sword was aimed at completely defeating Long Chen. The sword momentum formed by 1,000 suns. Long Chen wanted to focus, but the emotional injury was constantly disturbing him. Not only did it suppress his spirit, but it also suppressed his power. The more emotional a person was, the more troublesome it was. And now, the last sword of Di Jun's 3 swords also brought about a terrifying crisis. This attack was much stronger than Yellow Spring's Immortal Lord's attack. The sword waves whistled. 1,000 suns fell. Long Chen had nowhere to escape. Damn it. He had power, but he was unable to use it. This feeling was really depressing. If not for the emotional injury, even if Long Chen might not be able to defeat Biyao, he wouldn't be in such a sorry state. He wanted to attack, but he was constantly disturbed. Extreme suppression. The moment 1,000 suns fell, it was also the time for the emotional injury to attack. Biyao wanted to finish him off in one go. To end everything. "You said that we are not fated in this life. Then, I will send you to your next life, and you can come and meet me again," Biyao said with a sobbing tone. From the perspective of the dragon sacrificial continent, the scene was even more terrifying. 1,000 suns actually fell in the starry sky. If they hit the dragon sacrificial continent, trillions of lives would definitely be destroyed. Long Chen was really going crazy from anger. This was the most depressing battle he had ever fought. He had been suppressed until now, and he was infuriated. His opponent was about to slaughter him, and everyone else seemed to be worried about him. After all, the scene of Qian Yang's death was too big. The wishes of the masses were provided majestically. After being suppressed to the extreme, his emotions rebounded fiercely. Even the emotional injury couldn't withstand it. At this moment, anger covered up the emotional injury. Long Chen's power that had been suppressed to the extreme underwent a huge transformation. The primordial divine dragon heavenly tribulation's origin force surged. Majestic power surged, allowing him to break through a shackle and rush to the great circle realm in the midst of battle. Now, he was rushing over with cold eyes, and it was that annoying feeling again. Because of his persistence and tenacity, even when he was almost defeated previously, he had never been afraid of Biyao. Biyao gripped her sword again, her long white hair fluttering in the wind as she charged over frantically. Wherever her sword went, the starry sky burned, and golden splendor engulfed the galaxy. Die! Without another word, Long Chen's eyes turned illusory as he used the eternal momentary brilliance. The increase in his realm had brought about an increase in his strength and power. After he got rid of the emotional wounds, Biyao was directly blocked by his eternal momentary brilliance. This time, Long Chen was no longer polite. He executed the time rupture move again, fast and fierce. His spirit recovered a lot, and he displayed a power that completely exceeded every time before. Saber Chi swept out, and a domineering slash directly collided with Biyao's 9-star Emperor sword, who had broken free from the eternal instant. Hit! 3 breaths of time. Long Chen was so close to her, so of course he wouldn't give her another chance. He escaped into the time dragon, and when Biyao couldn't see him for a moment, in the next moment, the peerless dragon salure was already placed horizontally on Biyao's snow-white neck, cutting off a few strands of her long hair. He said, "Princess, you've lost." Biyao had already consumed a lot of energy, and with the time rupture, she had lost a lot of energy. At this time, she had indeed lost the strength to fight back. The outcome was decided. It had to be said that Biyao's white hair and emotional injuries were truly heaven-defying. If not for the fact that he had broken through at the last moment, who knew what would have happened to Long Chen? In the past, Long Chen did not put her in his heart. After all, she was a little spoiled, and could not compare to Long Chen, who had fought his way up from the bottom. But today, he had changed his mind. Even though he had won, he was still a little fearful. Of course, he also understood that defeating Biyao was nothing. Next, if Biyao decided to kill him, then he would definitely have to face other opponents. Long Chen. Biyao gritted her teeth and shouted out his name. Her fierce eyes were still staring at Long Chen. She never thought that after suppressing Long Chen all the way, she would lose at the last moment. He had lost to him in terms of love. On the battlefield, he had lost to him. This man had forcefully barged into her life and given her a huge blow. At this moment, there were countless thoughts in her mind. She wanted to kill Long Chen, but she wanted to rely on herself. Now that she had been defeated by Long Chen, the feeling of having nowhere to vent her anger was simply too painful. Just then, the Hell Divine King moved and appeared beside Long Chen. He extended a hand and grabbed towards Long Chen. Yin's soul hand. This seemingly inconspicuous move turned out to be a law, and an extremely terrifying one at that. This should be one of the Hell Divine King's laws. Even though it was inconspicuous, Long Chen could feel that this hand of the Hell Divine King was hiding a dark and cruel world. This was a binding law at the level of a Divine King. Long Chen wasn't sure if he could resist it. After all, as soon as the Hell Divine King made his move, Long Chen knew that he was much stronger than the current Biyao. Scram! In fact, Long Chen was already prepared to fight. It was just the Hell Divine King. Even if he knew that the other party was at the level of a war devil at his peak, he still wanted to give it a try. But at this time, Biyao angrily shouted, and the Hell Divine King stopped. You don't need to do anything. He's my prey. Biyao waved her hand, too lazy to say anything more to the Hell Divine King. Just like that, Long Chen dodged a calamity. The Hell Divine King wasn't angry. He chuckled and said to Long Chen, no matter what, you're always causing trouble. Even the princess wants to kill you. How long can you live? Long Chen was very calm. He said, Divine King, didn't you think highly of me before? Why do you want me dead now? Is it because I killed Yellow Spring's Divine Lord, your lackey? The Hell Divine King wasn't angry. He said, it's not that I want you dead. I really do think highly of you, but as the Divine King, I have to carry out the rules. Otherwise, how can I convince the masses? How can I explain it to the God King? I really want you to have a good future. When the time comes, I might even be able to bask in your glory. Unfortunately, you always want to die, and I can't stop you. Having said that, he returned to the group of gods. As expected, Biyao was still very stubborn. She couldn't kill Long Chen, but she wouldn't allow others to. He confronted Biyao again. She gradually suppressed her anger and turned it into deep indifference. Now that she seemed to have stabilized her white-haired state, it was almost equivalent to her ascending to a whole new level. Of course, this wasn't the only change. Originally, her body was dominated by Di Jun's bloodline. Now that the two types of God King's bloodline had blended together, her talent had also increased. Her future achievements would be limitless even without love. Scram back to your 5 dragon cities. It's over. I won't kill you today, but one day, I will defeat you with my sword. Beg me to forgive you. Biyao said coldly. From a helpless little bird to the cold indifference she had today, it was all caused by Long Chen, and also by herself. Long Chen said, from the moment you decided to use the heaven's incantation of indifference on me, I have lost all hope in you. We don't walk the same path. Princess, why make things difficult for me? You can look down on me, and I can live in peace. Biyao said, don't think too much. From now on, your fate is not in your hands, but in mine.